Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is oral communications.
The public shall have the opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter shall be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident will be notified within a 2-week period relative to the disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the city council. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each. What our protocol has been is that we start with people that are here, and then after that, we assume we go to the Zoom to hear the people speaking. So would anyone like to come and speak to us for up to 3 minutes? And Jason Groh, who is first on our roll call tonight, will be doing the timing. And you'll hear a noise go off at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. And that means you have 10 seconds to wrap up. So thank you. Suzanne, welcome.
Good evening, Susanna Altburger, Phil Bolger and friends. My late husband, Phil Bolger, all Gloucester born and bred, designed boats starting 1952. So we have an interest in what's going right and what's going wrong in a commercial fishing fleet, our primary economic engine, our source of reputation, what makes us a tourism destination. And so we've been looking at what's gone wrong. And of course, we found the Federal Register, which is the code that has impacted the fleet most significantly over the last 30 years. There's another piece of legal reference, which is State Code 301, CMR 20, and several points after that, which is coastal zone management, which is supposed to oversee harbor plans for the Commonwealth. Now, coastal zone management was initiated in 1983. It's been running for 30 years. And over the last 30 years, 40 years, over the last 30 years, coastal zone management has never once asked any of the harbor plans in the Commonwealth to reflect federal code that I just waved in your face. The rules of coastal zone management, when they're presiding, when they're administering harbor plans for communities like Gloucester, New Bedford, everybody else, they're supposed to be following federal, state, and local ordinances, guidelines, laws, DPA, Chapter 91, whatever it is on its layer, all the way back to the federal government. However, they never have really done that on the fleet structural issue.
Louder, please.
Oh, I'm sorry about this. Okay, I thought I'm usually the noisiest. So the point is that CCM has been made aware of the fact that for 30 years, they've been signing off on harbor plans, which have always excluded this piece of federal code, which means no elected officials in any community that has ever run a harbor plan since 1994 has ever gotten the full lay of the land according to those well-paid experts, these so-called harbor plans. Now, I've had a chance to speak with CCM. They got quite interested. And here's the last thing that I know of. CCM is considering Massachusetts working waterfronts are damaged by the requirements of CFR 651 because they prevent the development of a more sustainable and resilient fishing fleet. All state-approved municipal harbor plans, DPA master plans should state this, and CCM, as the supervisor of the municipal harbor plan process, should require coverage of this issue in all municipal harbor plans. Last thing, communities and state agencies should acknowledge that federal regulation at CFR 6514 are harmful to the communities and should work together to advocate for changes to the technical requirements regarding length, horsepower, tonnage for fishing vessels at the federal level to help the waterfront communities in Massachusetts. Now the question is, two one-liners. Will we see this in our current harbor planners planning? That is pending because those current folks have never discussed CFR 651. They haven't. We brought it to their attention. And a final one-liner, at Gloucester's 400th, not a single Navy ship came to visit and pay its respect. We usually have at least one, if not two, every year. And not a single large cruise ship showed up. Gloucester has dropped off the list of desirable tourism destinations for major players. So anybody who thinks we're going to have a tourism destination-based economy versus a viable port may want to rethink. Thank you very much for your patience. And I will send all this to you in a package that's much more digestible than having to listen to me.
Very much. Next person that would like to speak to us, you would speak loudly, introduce yourself in your address.
Start here.
Thank you. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
A little bit louder, be
Can
louder.
you hear me?
Now we can.
All right. So for Judy Steiner, I think you have to have my name and address. right?
Yes,
Judy Steiner?
yes, and we need you to be louder.
Move the microphone.
What?
Right in,
Oh, I should sing. How's that? So Judy Steiner, Steiner, 29 Addison Street. That's it, right?
yes.
Okay. We'll make sure I pass the test. I am not quite as well researched as my predecessor here, but I do have a list of items to bring up. And if you're a Bruins fan, puck drops in 45 minutes. So when we were looking at the debates, a lot of thing or a major thing that was brought up was this whole mandate of housing and a radius around a train station. Which right now we're focusing on the Gloucester train station. So my question to you is, we also have a West Gloucester train station. Would that not also be subject to the mandate? There's my question for you.
So we're not allowed to debate or discuss these tonight, but we listen, and then the mayor's office sends you something. So that's our protocol. So sorry, but
Yeah, no,
you can continue with your questions because it's important to us. Thank you.
I didn't expect you to answer. That's
You paused, and I just wanted to be clear, so thank you.
if I talk about anything that's on the eye chart already, I'll apologize now. We also keep hearing about a comprehensive study. And I don't know if there's a way to get a status on that. Obviously, I know we won't get it tonight, but it's very important to a lot of the issues that are happening, and especially down around Ward 2 and Main Street. Speaking of that, we keep hearing about a traffic study. And that's all it's coming. It's coming. So if you can provide a status on that, that would be great.
Did you say a traffic study?
Traffic study. I've heard it when I talked to Mayor Verga, he said that we're having a traffic study and the report will be coming out soon.
Okay.
Doesn't sound familiar.
I thought it was a parking study for.
Oh,
Yeah, I wasn't aware. but
you're probably right. It's a parking study. But I guess I would suggest that we also need a traffic study.
Okay.
Particularly, am I done?
No, you said thank you. I'm sorry.
No.
Continue.
Well, especially with all the construction and additions down on Main Street. Hopefully the parking study is covering that as well, but, hot topic is 20 Main, and that will bring in a lot more traffic on there. I realize that there's parking underneath, which is fine, but it still adds cars to the street. So yeah, I'd like to see a parking study. I don't know when we ask for these things. An assessment from the fire department. You writing down? For emergency vehicles. And especially for, what's that? I'm sorry.
Saying,
Oh,
your time is up, but if you could wrap up, that would be great. Thank you.
okay. Bruins puck is dropping in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next person that would like to speak to us for up to 3 minutes for matters that are not on tonight's agenda. If you would introduce yourself and your address, that would be great. 3 minutes, and Jason Grow will give you a shout out when there's 10 seconds left.
Very good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Gina Russo. I'm going to jump right into this. My name's Gina Russo. I'm the owner.
Can you tell us your address, please,
I'm
Gina?
sorry.
Thank you.
So I own a home on 37 Green Street, and I'm also part of the East End Condo Association on Main Street. Sorry, 274 Main Street. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm one of the owners of Sage Floral Studio, located on the east end of Main Street for the past 23 years. I'm also a homeowner here in Gloucester. I'm here tonight to voice my concerns about the lack of parking on Main Street. We have always seemed to manage, but it's getting increasingly harder to do. We compete with people who live on Main Street and the overflow from Gorton's, We've lost several parking spaces over the last few years, and now it's come to my attention that the lot between Nelson's and Black Bear Barbershop is slated to be developed on. This will have a major impact on small business on the East End. Not only will we lose 24 to 28 parking spaces, but now there will be more cars in need of parking. Is it possible that the city of Gloucester could work with the Gloucester Housing Authority and either purchase the space and keep it as parking, or at least have a parking garage beneath the new development? I know affordable housing is an issue in Gloucester. However, so is parking for businesses and residents who already committed to living and working on Main Street. I will say this again because it bears repeating. Sorry, I'm a little. Businesses and residents who have already committed to living and working on Main Street. Businesses like Sage Floral Studio, the Hair and Color Studio, and the Black Bear Barbershop alone create 18 jobs, most of these which are filled by Gloucester residents. There are over 60 small businesses on Main Street, not to mention the Grace Center with their employees and their numerous volunteers. It has to be a priority for our city officials. We have no other choice but to park on and around Main Street when we come to work. If there's no parking for people who own businesses or work at businesses on Main Street, there will be no small businesses. If there is no good, and this is not good for the city, and more importantly, not for their residents. I also wonder if the parking study, which is supposed to take place, could influence the decision to build there or not. In the meantime, I have a few suggestions for the city to consider. 1, free up the few parking spaces in front of Gorton's and across the street that have been removed. 2, cut back the bump out in front of the parking lot. 3, post these spaces and others on Main Street before Gorton's for the residents and business parking only. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gina.
I do have some pictures here of those spaces that I'd like you guys to consider, and this, who do I give this?
Great, you give that to Joanne Sinos as our city clerk. And thank you. Would you introduce the people that are with you, just so we know who
Sure, so
they
this
are?
is my business partner, Beth Genovese.
Beth?
And, this is Catherine. Couture, 76 Hair Color Studio. We're all part of the condominium. Jamie and Tim.
Great. We're really glad that you came tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rich is going to speak on behalf of.
Okay, great. So Rachel, if you would introduce yourself and remind us what your address is, that would be great.
My name is Rich Galante. I'm a resident in Gloucester.
Nice and loud, a
274 Main Street, apartment 5.
little bit louder.
Okay, 274 Main Street, apartment 5. I live in Gloucester. I work in Gloucester. And as Gina said, that we have very limited parking as it is right now. And so I guess one of the concerns that we have is that the Gloucester Housing Authority is supposed to build a building in this lot. So we're really curious on who actually owns the lot and how that can be proposed without knowing that. So we would really like to know that in the next meeting as you respond to our oral communications. I think that's the process, but maybe not. And I know there's a development going on in 20 Main Street where they're actually taking a lot. They're going to build a building and they're going to build parking under the building. So if that was the case, maybe they could build a double level parking lot and still leave these parking spaces for the public as it is now, and also have a second level parking to accommodate the people that are going to live there. So that's it, really. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And the process is that the mayor responds. Your letter in response will be sent to you as well as in the packet, so the public can all see that. And
Okay,
that's the
good, good.
process. So thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.
Who else would like to speak to the council for matters not on the agenda? If you'd introduce yourself, Jane, and your address. You have 3 minutes to speak to us.
Jane Fox Stops, 1014 Becker Circle. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Since 1989, my neighborhood, Becker Lane, Becker Circle, and White Mountain Road has attended city council meetings. We repeatedly asked the city to provide services primarily by installing deep water lines and much-needed fire hydrants, as well as improving road conditions. Our requests are always denied with the excuse that we reside on private streets. In April, we held a neighborhood meetings with Sean Nolan, Jeff Worthy, Jamie O'Hara, and neighbors from Rust Island and Haskell Court. Initially, Sean promoted the idea of a betterment. Once we explained the scope of our neighborhood problems and our knowledge of city improvements on private roads such as Woodman Street, Overlook Ave, Inglewood Road, and Lake Road, Sean realized the betterment was not acceptable. Our water lines were not installed below the frost line. Therefore, our water lines should have major breaks during deep freezes. They do not. This indicates that our water lines are sieves, allowing treated water to leak 24/7 at the taxpayer's expense. It is a health issue due to potential bacterial and viral contamination. Treated water is wasted and negatively affecting our ecosystem. It is a precious commodity, yet the city chooses to ignore the issue. It would be far more advantageous to fix this citywide problem, which would reduce maintenance costs for treatment plants and provide better city services. Our neighborhood is in desperate need of water pressure and fire hydrants. The distance from the furthest residential home to the closest fire hydrant is 2,640 feet or half a mile. In the Massachusetts Building Code, it states that the maximum distance to a fire hydrant from the closest point to a building shall not exceed 600 feet. And the maximum distance between fire hydrants shall not exceed 800 feet. A fire truck has 500 feet of hose. In the example above, 6 fire trucks are needed. Each team must connect 10 50-feet sections so there is sufficient length of hose from the closest fire hydrant to the residential home. Time is of the essence when it comes to saving lives in residential homes, and time is diminished due to treacherous road conditions, especially during inclement weather. There is not enough fire trucks at the West Gloucester station. Emergency responders and vehicles need to travel just to reach the scene. This puts residents at risk, both those affected by the fire and those that are now without emergency responders close by. Our taxes financially fund our fire departments and personnel. Over the past 34 years, my neighborhood has paid over $6 million in property taxes. Although we support a citywide emergency response system, our city does not provide an adequate number of fire hydrants or water pressure for its residents in their homes. Again, the issue of water lines, fire hydrants, and road pavements need to be resolved not only in this neighborhood, but on a citywide basis.
10 seconds.
We all pay our fair share of taxes. It is not a matter of public streets or private streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Next person that would like to speak in public comments for matters not on the agenda, you have 3 minutes to speak to us. If you would state your name and address.
Gregory Doe, 7 Whites Mountain Road. My deeded address is 13 Thompson Street. Councilors, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Councilors, Mayor Verger, congratulations on your reelection, and others, congratulations on your upcoming freedom. I stand before you addressing the needs of Thompson Street, Becker Lane, Becker Circle, Whites Mountain Road, 27 private residents and 1 church located on a public and private roads, both are public and private roads. We are in need of reliable water. Most of the homes in this area were constructed in the 1950s through 1990s as year-round residents. The city issuing building permits with no regard to infrastructure. This middle-class, year-round neighborhood is underserved by a substandard water line of questionable origin supplying city-treated water and with no fire hydrants. Many would call this a glorified seasonal water line. This water line runs 2 feet to 10 feet deep. Over hill, over dale, over rock to grandmother's house it goes. Put a shovel in the ground and you risk hitting the water line. Of this neighborhood, we only have 3 homes with deep water wells. When we purchased our home in the 1990s, we had no clue the dire straits of the water system. Our listing said city water. Boy, were we in for a big surprise. That winter night, Dave White, may he rest in peace, came by and said, we have a water break. I said, great, call the city. He says, ha, forget it. That was an icy, eye-opening experience that night. We've had 3 house fires, major brush fires, and the closest fire hydrants are on Concord Street. Thankfully, no loss of life or structure yet. We've been lucky. The city of Gloucester has installed deep water lines in other private neighborhoods under questionable pretense. If they're entitled to deep water at no cost, why aren't we just like they are? How does the historical seasonal water lines in the city installed to serve seasonal homes and Title I's home to deep water service while the city denies others. Just today, I received the capital improvement plan for 2023, missing many streets, including my neighborhood. We pay our taxes, we pay our water bills, we need safe and reliable city water, we need fire protection. We are asking for the city's support. We support all the other cities' needs. Now we want your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here at Kairos want to speak to us for matters not on the agenda before we go to the folks that are on Zoom? Are you here to speak? Okay, come on up. Introduce yourself and you have 3 minutes and your address, please.
Thank you. I'm Peter Johnson. I live at 33 Middle Street in Gloucester, obviously. And I just want to follow up with our support more than anything. A previous person that came up here, Judith, about the traffic study with regard to all the development going on in downtown. We have, as everyone knows, developments proposed for 20 Main Street. There's hotels coming up. We have the cut. We got the Y being developed. I know I heard that one of the other, the building next to the old Y, I guess it's also part of the Y offices, whatever is supposed to be into changed into residential or apartments. Anyway, there's many things that's going on. So I just also want to follow up that request for a traffic study with regard to all of these before any of these get approved in downtown area. And what I especially want to emphasize is not only the traffic study for Washington Street and Main Street and Rogers Street, but how it affects Pine Street, School Street, Middle Street. A lot of the traffic to get to these areas had to go through those areas. And those areas are residential areas with kids playing in the streets, and people live and stay there. Noise, exhaust, and everything like that will affect their quality of life. And so I just want to emphasize that and ask if we're going to have a traffic study that encompasses not only how people come and go out of downtown, but also how it affects the residential areas downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
So now we'll go to the Zoom call, and I see 2 hands. I see Marianne Boucher and Linda McCarriston. Marianne, welcome. If you could introduce yourself, you have 3 minutes to talk to us. Welcome.
Thank you. Marianne Boucher, 93 Mount Pleasant Avenue. So we're 2+ years into the Good Harbor Beach contamination. I would like to know or to get and to ask the full city council to find the cause, to report the cause. We spent $120,000 on the consultant, as all of you know. I know we're not testing now because we're into November. Probably won't test again till May. But is this going to go into year 3? Are we going to open our beach next year with the same contamination? I think the residents and the tourists and the people that use that beach deserve an answer. It is past due time to give the people of this city an answer as to where the contamination is coming from. And if you haven't found it, please continue until it's found. Whose health is at risk? Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Linda McCarriston. Linda, if you'd introduce yourself and your address, you have 3 minutes to speak to us. Welcome. Linda dropped. Marianne is still in too. Anyone else like to speak to the council that's on Zoom? Oh, come on up. Yep, you have to come up and introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak to us. We have 34 attendees now on Zoom.
Thank you. This is about the last meeting. we discussed the one parking spot being.
Can you tell us your address?
Sorry, my name is Zorba Kinnickstein. I'm at 594 Western Ave. I just came from the restaurant, sorry, and I saw that I have no parking spots in front of the restaurant now. It goes past the restaurant. I'm losing 3.5 to 4 parking spots, which is, there's such limited parking already. I don't know who was in charge of putting the sign where it is, but it is supposed to be one more parking spot from the corner where it said from no parking from here to corner, and I have 0 parking spots in front of George's restaurant. So that is not what we had talked about. I said, you know, the distance sounded like far to me. I was assured it was going to be 1 additional parking spot from where it was already. And I said, I'm fine with losing the parking spot. I'll talk to the DPW about getting a crosswalk there. I did contact them. They said they had to do a study on it, but it is not 1 parking spot. Literally, there's 3 cars parked there right now. And the signs are so far apart. It is not going to do the intended purpose of making that corner safer at all. It's going to really crush our business. And the signs are so far apart that it doesn't even make sense where they are, honestly. It should have been 1 parking spot from where it says no parking from here to corner. And we got to put something there. People are actually going to not park there. Otherwise, no one's gonna.
Thank you for coming. We expected 1 parking spot, so appreciate your feedback so quickly. Thank you. Okay, I think that we're done with oral communications. So next order of business, Madam Clerk.
The next order of business is a presentation by Jody Gibley of Element Care regarding services offered to Gloucester residents.
Welcome, Jody. If you'd introduce yourself and just for counselors to be aware, about 1.5 years ago, Mayor Verger and Elise Sinagra, myself, some members of the Council on Aging Board toured your facility, and we promised to get you back here. And our agenda didn't seem too heavy tonight, so we're excited that you're here to speak to us on Element Care. So you have the floor. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having us here. It does seem like a busy night. If this isn't a busy night, then I worry about the real busy nights. But good evening, everyone. My name's Jody Gibley. Thanks for letting me come in here tonight, talk to you about the PACE program for all-inclusive care for the elderly. So our mission is to keep people out of nursing homes. We want to keep people living safely in the community for as long as possible. So how do we do that? I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, but first I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our program. So we were founded in 1995. We have 6 PACE centers with over 1,000 participants. The centers of the sites are in Gloucester, Beverly, Methuen, Lowell, and 2 in Lynn, and we're opening 1 soon in Brighton. Our service area contains 51 communities on the, is this getting shared? No? Okay. Sorry. Said you disabled it. Okay, I'll just do it without. Okay, sorry about that. So we're in 51 communities. We go all the way to Dunstable.
But if Joanne's gonna share it for you because I think she
Okay.
has it on her screen as well.
Thank you. Up to North Salisbury and Amesbury. We go over to as far as Rockport and Gloucester and down to Nahant, Winchester, and all those areas. So how does it work? So each site has a team of professionals that include doctors and nurse practitioners and nurses, dietitians, physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, psych NPs, behavioral health therapists, personal care assistants, medical secretaries, and activities. And each morning, each site has an 8 a.m. meeting to discuss any updates or problems going on with their participants. So the center manager, it's the 5th slide. Thank you. So the center manager sits around a table with 20 to 40 professionals, depending on which site, because some sites only have 130 people and some sites have 260 people. So all of us sit around at a table and discuss the participants and any problems that we may have with them or things going on with them or any on-call messages that we got from the night before. So for example, if the on-call says Jody wasn't feeling well, then we sit at the table and say, okay, what are we going to do for Jody? Either the nurse is already out in the building or out in the facility or the area somewhere, and we text the nurse and say, hey, can you go check on Jody? And if the nurse thinks that Jody needs to come in to see the doctor, then the nurse will call the medical secretary. She'll call transportation, and we'll have the senior citizen come in right then to see, or that day to see the doctor. Another scenario is the doctor says, oh, Jody wasn't feeling well last week. Let's have her come in again. And right then the medical secretary contacts transportation to have the senior come in. Sometimes we'll get a call from the Assisted Living Association or housing saying, oh, Jody wasn't herself today. We don't know what's going on. And because we're sitting with all of the team, the social worker could, for example, say, oh, her daughter's away and she doesn't know what's going on. So I think that's probably what it is. Or the nurse or doctor could say, she could have a UTI. Let's have her come in for a urine sample. That all gets done immediately in that day. The key about Element Care and PACE is we're quick and efficient, and we're proactive, not reactive. So we don't wait for people to end up in the hospital or rehab. We try to prevent that from happening, because the longer you're in hospital, then the better your chances are of ending up in a nursing home and not being able to live safely in the community. So we discuss everyone in the hospital, everyone in rehab, what their condition is, and when their anticipated discharge date is. Because we want to know their discharge date, because when they're coming home, they might need personal care, they might need new medications, they might need different supplies that they didn't need, or durable medical equipment that they didn't need before they went into the hospital. So we get all of that ready for them for their discharge. If they're in a rehab, sometimes in order to make sure that they can go home safely, we'll pick them up at the rehab, bring them home, and have them transfer from the toilet to their wheelchair, transfer from the bed to standing up, do things like that so that we're confident that they're safe to go home. So we also have an adult day health facility where people can go Monday through Friday and get breakfast, lunch, snacks, do activities, exercise in the rehab office, see their doctor, nurse, rehab, therapist. You don't have to go to the ADH if you don't want to, but it's there for those who would like to go. We also have the cultural specific adult day health programs, including Albanian, Spanish, and Khmer, which cater food and activities to those cultures. Slide 7. So how do you become eligible for Element Care PACE? First thing is you have to be 55 or older. 55 to 64, you have to be disabled. Your income has to be under 2742, and your assets have to be under 2,000. The kicker here, and it's unlike Mass Health, is it doesn't include your spouse. So if your spouse was you were a stay-at-home mom and your income is a lot less and your spouse has a ton of income, we don't count his income. So that's really key for the PACE program. Clinically, you have to be eligible. A nurse will come out and check. But even if you think that maybe they're not, just call the referral line or information or ask us, because a lot of times with senior citizens, they'll say they're independent, they do everything. But then when you go out there, you see their medications are all over the counter. They're not really doing it right. So there are things that we can notice that sometimes people who don't know them that well or haven't been in their apartment don't notice. So we're the provider, meaning we're the doctor, we're the nurse, we're everybody, the medical team for them, and we're also the insurance. And we cover everything that is medically necessary. So there's no co-pays, you don't pay for incontinent products, you don't pay for anything that's medically necessary. So the next slide. So what does it cost? So 0, 0, 0, 0. Everything, you just give us your Medicare, and if you're on Mass Health, then everything else is no cost to you. So who should you consider? So there's a lot of different people that join PACE. Some of the key people that we're really helpful with are insulin dependent people. So people who get a shot every day for insulin. They might not be able to get into an assisted living facility because they don't have nurses 24 hours a day. Whereas we would either have one of our nurses come in and do the insulin shot, or would hire VNA nurse to come in. If they have to go to dialysis, that's 3 or 4 times a week, a ride that a family member has to give. We do all that. We have our own transportation. We set up transportation. We set up the appointments for them and we take them. And if they can't go by themselves, then we'll arrange for a personal care assistant to escort them on the bus and take them into the appointment. People who have dementia can't stay at home by themselves. We contract with a dementia ADH, but we also have our own ADH that they can come to. And we also contract with memory impaired assisted living facilities. And mental health people, we have our own psych NP, our own behavioral health therapists. We have our own social workers. We contract with rest homes for mental health people. And I don't know how well you guys know that it's very hard to get any psychiatrists or behavioral health appointments in today's world. Next. So Emerson site, this is our Gloucester site. So we have 135 participants and 63 that reside in Gloucester. Of those 63, they live at Central Grammar, Curtis Clark, McPherson, Sheedy Park. Some are at the nursing home, and then there's many other people in independent housing. 12 have activated healthcare proxies, 55 use behavioral health services, and then there's people that have homemaking, PCA care, and 44 of them have a lifeline, which we do provide. So these are the durable medical equipment that we gave out to those people living in Gloucester to keep them living safely in the community. So some of the things are getting off the toilet, the handrails, getting out of bed, the pillow wedge to keep them up so they don't choke, a long-handled shower, cleaner, shower head, utensils. If someone has Parkinson's, they're weighted down so that they can eat and they don't shake as much. The beds, how easier to put a sock on, a shoe on, to reach something. These are all free medical equipment that we've given out to people in Gloucester who are part of the PACE program. One of the other things that we have is the GrandPad, which is the little computer you see on the left-hand side. And the GrandPad is, you see the little buttons. It's not like an iPad, it's much easier. And it's for, they press a button and it can get them to the Element Care PACE site where they can reach the doctor, or the doctor can call them and they just have to press a button to do a telehealth visit. We also have online activities that they can press and zoom into. And it has only their children or whoever their closest family members are that they just press a button so that they can call. And then there are games and activities, if they like to do that, can also be put in there, as well as radio stations. So the next, caregivers love us because we do a lot for the participant and we do a lot for the caregiver. It takes a lot of stress off the caregiver, gives them a lot more freedom. They know that we kind of take over with appointments, taking people to doctors, or we help them with advice. If they're going to be with their loved one all the way, that's great. Sometimes they have questions. They'll ask questions about people who have dementia or anything like that. We're always there for them. I was at a PACE event at the State House a couple weeks ago, and Representative Kay Khan was there. She's been a Massachusetts representative for 29 years, and she spoke in favor of PACE last couple weeks ago at the State House. I never met her before, but I didn't realize her brother was referred to us by Senior Care 15 years ago. He had a lot of medical and mental health problems, and I did ask her if I could mention this tonight, and she said I could. So her brother joined PACE and was at the Emerson site in Gloucester for 15 years. Her brother asked Kay to make sure she tells people how great PACE is. He can't believe the services that he gets from them. And Kay was very appreciated. So the doctor called Kay when her brother was dying and walked her through the whole final stages of how it's going to work, Robert's life. Kay said she couldn't believe how much time the doctor spent with her. So the difference between the PACE physicians and providers and your regular PCP is PACE only has 150 patients, whereas your regular PCP could have 1,500 to 2,000 or more patients. So what's going on with Gloucester and Rockport partnerships? So I heard someone mention, and I don't know a lot about the Main Street, certainly don't know about the parking, but the Main Street building in Gloucester, we're building 20 senior apartments that will have 24-hour staff, and that's not opening till late 2025, probably not taking residents till 2026. And then we just opened recently Pigeon Cove Ledges, partnered with Harbor Light Home, Associated Home Care, and Rockport Housing. That's 30 senior apartments. We'll also have 24-hour staff there. So the other info is we do have a 24-hour on-call. We contract with many assisted living facilities, rest homes, and adult day health centers. One of the great things about us, Element Care PACE program, is we actually contract with a skilled nursing facility for a rehab. We rent out 7 beds. So if someone needs some help with rehab, or if they're going in for a colonoscopy and the family doesn't think they can do colonoscopy prep at their house, we can put them in this facility and they get help. There's no 3-night hospital stay necessary, which is a big deal because a lot of times you have to go to the hospital 3 nights before they put you into rehab. But that's not the case. And they also can use our PT, OT, and speech can go over to those beds and do the therapy. This is just an example of someone who came to PACE. Before PACE, she was almost 300 pounds. She needed oxygen. She was bedridden, medical and mental health issues. And then after PACE, you could see her, she no longer required oxygen. We got her dentures and hearing aids. She got her cataracts removed, and then she was speaking at the State House. And that's not an anomaly. There's a lot of great things that happen. I actually used to run a site, and I saw how much we did and how much the doctors and everyone did. And I said, I have to get out from this job and go tell people about PACE. And that's why I do what I do now. So how do you get enrolled? So the pre-qualification is you'd call the 800 number or email us or fax, and you'd speak to a girl who will tell you by pre-qualifying you. The next step is you'll get a home visit by the enrollment specialist who tells you financially if you're eligible, and the nurse makes you eligible clinically. And then you'll come in and tour Element Care, meet the team, and then the approval starts. You don't have to wait until open enrollment. That's not how PACE works. You can enroll anytime during the year. Usually takes about 6 weeks to 8 weeks to enroll, and we only enroll on the first of the month. And that is it.
That was excellent. Thank you. Really helpful.
I have brochures here in case anyone wants to grab one on the way out.
Great, thank you. Councilors, any questions? Jason, Council Grow, and then Council O'Neill.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just quickly on the economics of this, the income level is $2,700 per month.
Per month,
And
$742.
And then $2,000 maximum in terms of cash assets.
Yes.
They don't count homes.
They don't count homes or spouses' assets, and there's a 1-month look back.
Very good. Thank you.
Those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Council Worthley.
Yes, did you say there was a look back? How long is that?
1 month.
1 month. So people who are planning ahead can make some moves to,
There's always good elder attorneys out there.
right? No, but there's some reason to move on assets out of
Yeah.
community.
And they don't count the spouse's income.
Thank you.
If a member of our city council wants to go for a tour, you'd be willing to do
Absolutely.
that. I just,
Sure.
I was totally impressed with the
Oh, thank you.
vibrant environment and all the things that you did. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. Let me come.
Great. Thank you,
you.
Jody. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order is the consent agenda.
Councilors, does anyone wish to move any matter off the consent agenda? Council Memard.
Under councilor orders, number 2.
Okay, number 2. Yep, got it. Anyone else like to remove something from the consent agenda? Council Harris, hand is raised. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 2?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Counsel Gross, seconded by Counsel Worthley. Roll call vote. Oh, what?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Jamie.
Jamie. Counsel Grow.
Yep.
Counsel Majota. Oh, it's okay. We have a quorum.
Yes.
Counsel Memard.
Yes.
Counsel Nolan.
Yes.
Counsel O'Hara.
Yes.
Counsel O'Neill.
Yes.
Counsel Worthley.
Yes.
Counsel Gilman. Yes. Counsel Gross.
Yes.
The consent agenda is unanimously approved. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. And now, Counsel Memard on item number 2, City Council 2023-054, Memard amend GCO Chapter 13 Noise in Section 1-15, penalty for certain violations of code regarding gas-powered leaf blowers. You have the floor, Counselor.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to pull it off for a moment to give a little background and acknowledgement of some of the public interest that this has garnered. I want to acknowledge many messages, both strongly in favor and also vehemently opposed to 2023-054, which is a proposal to phase out our use of gas-powered leaf blowers in Gloucester. And I have been requested by residents of Ward 1 to put this forward, and I'm their city councilor, and so I'm putting it forward. Now that a draft proposal is on the table, I've also been asked by our landscape contractor community to withdraw it from further consideration. And I don't want to inflict any unnecessary concerns or stress on our landscapers, but we do have a noise ordinance in Gloucester. It's been in place since 1995. And I'm not going to withdraw this proposal at this time because I think that this discussion is timely. Given improving technology and battery and electric alternatives, residents' tolerance for extreme noise, not to mention, and this really isn't the issue before us, but the pollution and the health impacts of these inefficient two-stroke motor blowers, it's clear that all too soon, we will in fact all agree to phase out the use of gas-powered leaf blowers, and I'm just laying the path to get it started. So I welcome input and discussion going into O&A committee where this is being referred to, and to try and work with the contractor community so that we can phase this in effectively over time in a way that doesn't unduly cause a hardship or a problem.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there a motion to return this to the agenda and refer it to O&A?
Move to refer it back to O&A.
Second.
A motion's made by Counsel Gross, seconded by Counsel Worthley.
On the
Further
motion?
on the motion, go ahead.
Yes, I think, first, thank you, Councilman Memhard, for that explanation. We get used to paying attention to our processes, but there are people here tonight and who've emailed us and called us that may not know that this vote tonight is to send it to the committee that will review this. There will be a public hearing on this if it gets through the committee and back here, and that probably wouldn't be until maybe the new year at this pace. So I just want to make sure everyone here knows that there'll be a chance for public input on both sides of this issue and all the sides of this issue. And this vote tonight is to send it to the committee only to be reviewed.
And we also encourage people to send emails to us to keep us in the loop in terms of how you're feeling, which is helpful. And if they want to do that, they just send something to Joanne Sinos, jsinos@gloucester-ma.gov. She will share it to all the counselors. So it's another way to make sure you can start the conversation, whether in support or in opposition. Any further discussion on the motion to refer this back to O&A? Seeing none, roll call vote. Counsel Grow.
Yep.
Counsel Majota.
Yes.
Counsel Memard.
Yes.
Counsel Nolan.
Yes.
Counsel O'Hara.
Yes.
Counsel O'Neill.
Yes.
Counsel Worthley.
Yes.
Counsel Gilman. Yes. Counsel Gross.
Yes.
Yeses have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you, Counselor. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the Budget and Finance Standing Committee report of November 9th.
Okay, and I turn this discussion over to Counsel Memard, our BNF Chair.
As many of you know, so our Budget and Finance Subcommittee met last week. We had a meeting of the whole to review community preservation projects that were before us. We reviewed 6 of those, and we'll be reviewing another 6 at our upcoming Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Those will be presented to the council and the public at a later date in full. Coming out of the committee, we had one memorandum from our environmental engineer requesting our acceptance of a 2024 lead service line inventory and replacement plan grant. And I'll go ahead and read our motion, which was to, on a motion by myself, Councilor Memhard, seconded by Councilor Gross. Budget and Finance Committee voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed. Councilor Worthley was momentarily absent. To recommend that the City Council accept under Mass General Law 4453A a 2024 lead service line inventory and replacement plan grant, which is a federal grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency passed through the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund lead service line inventory and replacement plan. It's in the amount of $242,000 for the purpose that will consist of preliminary record screening, including review of record drawings, capital improvement, and master plans, coordination with the city's GIS provider and asset management provider to create and format a GIS map of service lines, materials to be shared on the city's website. Public outreach will include education materials over the entire city, as well as parties where the service line are identified. A technical memorandum of findings from the records screening and mapping will be prepared. And finally, the lead service line replacement contract documents will be prepared, including specifications, standard details, a construction cost estimate, and a plan for permitting. The grant period is through August 2nd, 2025, and there is no local match for this grant, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard, seconded by Council Worthley. Is there a narrative?
I don't have
Council
anything
Memard?
further to add. There was a very thorough presentation made. We had a chance to ask questions of the staff folks involved in this. Maybe other members of the Budget and Finance could comment, or if there's a specific question.
Okay, Council Grow.
Was there any discussion? I noticed it's 242,000 for the research and development of the framework of how many things need to be replaced. Was there any discussion about who's going to help pay for the?
We tried to get there,
Yeah.
and this is the first step.
Okay. So this is
This
step
is a
one on the.
necessary first step to identify the need, and then it provides the evidence that we then would need to pursue further funding sources to actually
Replacement.
implement individual improvements.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Further
Question.
discussion, councilors? Council O'Hara? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Council Grow. Yes, thank you. Council Marjota.
Yes.
I
Council
like being
Memard.
first.
Yes.
Now Council Nolan.
Yes.
Council O'Hara.
Yes.
Council O'Neill.
Yes.
Council Worthley.
Yes.
Council Gilman. Yes. Council Gross.
Yes.
Yeses have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you. We're going to take a 2-minute recess. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Grow, and we have to do a roll call on this because we have to follow the rules. Council Grow.
Yes.
Council Majota.
Yes.
Council Memard. Council Nolan.
Yes.
Council O'Hara.
Yes.
Council O'Neill.
Yes.
Council Worthy.
Yes.
Council Gilman. Yes. Council Gross.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Quick recess, 2 minutes. Let's make sure we get back here quickly. Thank you.
I have to unmute it.
Okay.
Okay, say it again. Sorry.
Okay. So we are restarting our meeting of November 14th. And we took a brief recess and we're back. So next order of business, Madam Clerk.
The O&A administration did not meet on November 6th, so the Planning and Development Standing Committee report of November 8th.
Council Grow.
Thank you. Just three items that we want to talk about, nothing for a vote tonight. I wanted to call everybody's attention to being the upcoming holiday season. We have the Gloucester Holiday Parade and tree lighting on November 26th, 2023. There's a rain date of December 3rd, 2023. So that will commence. It starts at Parker Street, State Fish Pier, moves to Main Street.
That was me again. I'm sorry.
Okay. Moves to Kent and ends at Kent Circle. It is, as always, an awesome event, especially if you have little wee ones. There will be a Santa and a fire truck and a tree and all the other stuff that goes with that stuff. The other event we have is the Middle Street Walk on December 9th, 2023. And that is going to be, again, an event that is annual event. And this one is going to have, they hope, as long as weather and everything cooperates, sleigh ride, not sleigh rides, hay rides with horses. So I want to bring those events to you. The other issue is we have an ongoing discussion with an applicant who has requested an informal review of zoning, a potential zoning change that has to do with adding a transfer station for construction demolition refuse to the city's Gloucester zoning ordinance. We don't currently have a use that allows that. We have what's called the junkyard ordinance, so that is allowed. Currently, it's in a bit of a stasis right now because it's going through a DEP process simultaneous to the city process. And that currently now is sitting with the Board of Health and being reviewed for the state application. It will not be picked up by the city council again until probably February when the Board of Health process has completed its recommendations and then resubmits those not only to the state but to the city council. There's nothing been formally applied for for the city council to act on, but I expect that come February, beginning of March, we will see an application for a zoning change, and so that's where we are with that, and that's it.
Thank you, Counselor. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the scheduled public hearing 2023-52, the loan order 2023-004, loan authorization request in the amount of $50 million for seasonal waterline replacement project and shift of debt service for seasonal waterline replacement project.
I'd like to open the public hearing, and I would just like to explain to everybody how the process works, because I know some of you are new at attending these. We begin by typically hearing from the applicant, and then we ask who would like to speak in favor. You have up to 3 minutes. Council Grow is going to do the timing for that. Works the same way that the oral communications did. And then after that, we're going to do the opposition and allow anybody that would like to speak in opposition to speak up to 3 minutes. Again, you do the same thing. You introduce yourself, your address, you have up to 3 minutes and you're timed. And then after that, we will reach out to people that are on Zoom and we'll repeat the same process. And then that concludes the public hearing comment section, but the public hearing is still open. So after that, what we do is we ask Madam Clerk to tell us how many communications that have been received, that were received as of last Friday. And that was the date that the communications were required in the newspaper ad. And then after that, we ask counselors if they have questions. And frequently, some of the questions are on our mind. Some of the questions might come up when you're speaking to us, in that we take care of getting those questions answered in that part of the public hearing. And then after the questions end, then we close the public hearing, and that's when we do the committee report and we discuss, we deliberate based on what we heard. So that concludes the explanation of the public hearing process. I think I got it all. And so at this point, I'd like to add, oh, and just to let counselors know, on our call, we have members of city staff. I mentioned them earlier, but Jill Cahill is our CAO. She is on the call. Kenny Coster is our auditor. Mike Hale is our Director of Public Works. Suzanne Egan is our General Counsel. And John Dunn is our CFO. And they're all there to help us when we get to the part of the public hearing where we ask counselors if you have questions on anything that you've heard. Okay,
Some
so
information.
go ahead, Council Worthley.
Thank you. Wouldn't the administration, since they requested this of the council, wouldn't they be the lead speaker in favor of this? Right, and would they get 3 minutes or up to 15 minutes?
They can have up to 15.
Okay, just want to be clear.
Okay. All right. So the public hearing has been open, and we'll ask that the first speaker representing the city, go ahead, City Clerk Joanne Sinos. Okay, great. So our CAO, Jill Cahill, has her hand raised. So Jill, you have the floor, and tell us about this loan order. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to the members. I'm here tonight just to simply bring forward this loan order and the included debt shift. As you know, and all the counselors know, many of the residents from the neighborhoods around Rest Island have been very vocal and brought this issue to the attention of the council and the administration. Many of the counselors asked for the administration to do some analysis and put a proposal forward. And that is what we bring to you today. We took a look at how best to handle upgrading what is public seasonal water infrastructure and how best to cover the financing of it. We bring to you the loan order and the debt shift. We did examine both betterments and adding it, bringing it through the water rates. The water rate was significantly higher. So this is the route we propose. We're happy to bring this to you, and we will be here for questions when you get there. We want to thank the neighborhood who brought this to our attention. And I think the only other thing important to point out is when we discussed it internally, it was very important to the mayor that if we were going to do it for one neighborhood, we did it for all the areas that still had seasonal public water infrastructure. So the additional neighborhoods and streets included were included for that reason. So again, we'll be here to answer questions when you get to counselor questions. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Jill. Anyone else like to speak in favor for administration? Seeing none, so members of the public, come on up, and we'd love to hear from you. Name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, let's see. My name is Ann Strong. I live at 44 Crafts Road, which is on Rest Island. It's nice to see you all. We've been speaking to you, as you know, since April 25th. And we are really thrilled that the administration has brought this proposal forward and has included the other neighborhoods that still have public municipal seasonal water. Fire safety is first and foremost in our minds when we brought this forward. Fires happen. In 2006, when the remote fire stations were closed, we lost a woman named Bridget Cleary who died in Bayview. Then just last year, we had Poles Hill, who was expecting it. It happened. Even when Rest Island was years ago, when they were building the API at Andrew Bridge, some welding there sparked off and most of Rest Island burned. It's highly, brush filled and lots of trees. And then it wasn't because all the brush burned. So anyway, we're really happy that the city is proposing this to upgrade these remaining seasonal municipal lines. Because this will provide us with adequate fire protection at long last, and that will help us to sleep easy. We're really grateful that you're considering it. We hope you'll vote to protect us. We hope you'll vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Introduce yourself and your address, and you have 3 minutes to talk to us.
Thank you. Larry Russo, 56 Yale County Road. The matter before the council tonight is one of public safety. Simply put, we have no meaningful firefighting protection in the 3 target areas. The National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, compliance for municipal hydrants is 1 every 600 feet. This ensures that no property is more than 300 feet from the nearest fire hydrant. Many of our homes in the target areas are more than 2,000 feet from a hydrant. Yes, we want year-round water. Yes, we want healthy water. But more importantly, we want water for fire protection. And at an earlier council meeting this summer, I spoke on Zoom of 4 factors that we have in common with the tragic fire in Hawaii last August. 1, we have a highly combustible forestry. 2, we have likely ignition source. 3, we have gusty coastal winds. And 4, we have an insufficient water supply for fire suppression. The heavy forestry and thick vegetation in the 3 target areas has gone unmanaged for over 100 years. This forestry is highly vulnerable to a quick-moving blaze. A possible ignition source could very likely come from the aged national grid infrastructure. Many of the power lines and related equipment predate 1953. Most importantly, we have no water to fight even a minor fire, let alone a major blaze. NFPA fact, and I quote, "A fully engaged fire doubles in size every 60 seconds." In summary, Gloucester has an obligation to provide basic city services. Fire protection is a basic city service that must be provided to all residents, all businesses, in all neighborhoods. City Council meeting minutes from 2008 revealed that this matter has been under consideration for 15 years. It's time to take favorable action now. Thank you for your time. I ask for your vote to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Who else would like to speak to us in favor of this application?
Hi, my name's Charles Crowley, 19 Biscuit Head Point. I'll be very brief. You guys all know that West Gloucester is the brush, whatever, we're in the boonies. We need fire protection. We need fire protection for Rust Island, and I have great deal of sympathy for the other people who have spoken. I'd like to get this job done. I'd love to see it come in under budget, and I'd love to see the surplus go to serve these other homes that need it. This is important. Let's just do it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Charlie. Who else would like to speak in favor? One up and introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes to talk to us.
I'm Lynn McGuire. I live at 39 Ye Old County Road on Rust Island. My family's been living there since 1968, and I just encourage you to please protect us and vote yes for this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Next.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Scateri. We are building a home at 8 Russ Road on Rust Island. And, honestly, I had no idea that we didn't have access to fire protection when we purchased the land and building the home. So that's one thing to consider, that people buying in, that's not something we should assume or be concerned about, that we don't have fire protection. And I also just want you to kind of reflect a little bit on just the geographics of Rust Island. If a fire were to break out, it just, the way it's built, somewhat as a peninsula, I don't think that people living there could even be saved, because it would cut off, if a fire started, it would cut off access to certain people living there. So I really hope that you guys will consider an affirmative vote, and please address us with any questions that you might have. But I think that this is something that any buyer should assume, that that our taxes are going to protect us from a potential fire. And this is, something that all of us will really appreciate, and we really appreciate all of your positive affirmations to make this pass. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Could you say your last name again?
Scuteri, Scuteri.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, and you have 3 minutes. Thank
Good
you.
evening, Council. Charles Noyes on 61 Crafts Road. Been here for about 9 years now, and actually to go off of something that Jen just mentioned, not only access on the island, but off the island. I'm the fifth house from the end of Crafts Road. Should there be a fire that occurred somewhere between me and the hydrant currently at Lobster Land, about 1,400 feet away, 4, I understand from the police chief's assessment, maybe 5 fire trucks away. Neither I or any of our neighbors, 3 of us who are year-round residents, would be able to leave the island if there were a fire like that. So we have no way of egress to get out of there. So, we've been addressing you folks since April of 2023. Appreciate all the attention to this matter, as well as the mayor's attention to this matter, and look forward to a positive vote to move things forward here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, 3 minutes, introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris Payne, 45 Crafts Road. Good?
Yes.
I'm just asking you to vote in favor of this. I would like to keep the house that I have for my children and my grandchildren. I've worked really hard for that. So it's important that you vote yes for us. Keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, name and address.
Kimberly Typert, 61 Crash Road. Just want to ask for your vote to protect us. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Name and address. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Kathy Hurdle. I called in to a city council meeting previously to discuss some of the toxins and other problems that we have with our wells, which all draw from the same aquifer. I live at 20 Biscayne Head Point, and I'm a property owner in Gloucester for the last 20 years. There may be people who do not want to support this, but what I would say is if anything could possibly have been done about the quality of our water over the previous 20 years, many people who live in the area have done it, and it is not satisfactory. So in addition to the fire protection, which we all dreadfully need, we also have unhealthy water, and we would appreciate some improvement there. So I'm asking you to vote yes on this proposal and appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Riddell. Who else would like to speak to us for up to 3 minutes? Welcome. If you'd state your name and address, that is great. Thank you.
My name is Monica.
Can you be a little bit louder for us? Because we'd love to hear you.
Yes. My name is Monica Dane, and I live on 37 Crafts Road on Rust Island. And I've been living there for 50 years. And I really think all the residents on Rust Island need water. I mean, I've never heard that you don't have year-round water. That's unbelievable. And you really should help us and vote in favor of deep water for Rust Island. I mean, fire protection is one of the things that's mandatory, isn't it? I think it should be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Monica. Who else would like to speak to us for up to 3 minutes? Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Borselli. I live at 8 Cove Way on Rust Island. And I just ask that you vote yes for this proposal. We really appreciate your support in water for us to keep our families safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next.
Hi, I'm Joanne Borselli. I'm 7 North Landing Way. And I think my neighbors have all pretty much said it best. So I just ask for you to vote yes and support our cause.
Thank you. Name and address.
Hi, I'm Kelly Graham Smith, 67 Crafts Road. My family's owned there since the 1950s. And again, like my neighbors, we just ask to keep us safe and protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Name and address.
Hi, I'm Amber Gomnitz. I live at 8 Lincoln Street in West Gloucester, and I would just like to ask for your support for year-round water.
Thank you. Anyone else in Kairos like to speak to us in favor?
Hi, my name is Mary Page. I live at 69 Crafts Road on land that's been in my family over 100 years. And I really would appreciate deep water. My well is not terrific, but in case of a fire, especially this time of year, you know, what am I going to do? Jump in the river to escape? I don't know. Anyway, please vote yes on our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Who else would like to speak to us? Thank you. Name and address.
I am Cynthia Lanzanor of Kearney. I live at 34 Fernald Street. I am speaking in favor of this. I am a lucky person who has a really good well, but I know there are many in my neighborhood who don't. So please vote in favor of this.
Thank you, Cynthia. Who else would like to speak to us in favor? Name and address.
My name is Veronica Bello. I live at 21 Ye Old County Road in Gloucester on Rust Island, and please vote yes for this. We need your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Meg.
Hi, I'm Meg Jarrett, and I live at 20 Biskie Head Point. And I am just asking you to please vote for us and vote yes for fire protection. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this? One up, name and address.
I'm Kelly McGuire. I live at 39 Ye Old County Road, and I'm just asking that you please vote yes, protect us, keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Kevin Borselli, 8 Cove Way. I just wanted to point out that Mary Page, who just spoke to you a few minutes ago, lives in one of the most vulnerable locations on Rust Island, out by the point toward Pierce's Island. You know, this is just an area where fire trucks and water would be critical to get to in the event of a fire. So I just, implore you to vote yes on this matter. Thank you.
Kevin. Next.
Mark Leibovitz, 71 Crafts Road. New voice with an old message. Please vote yes.
Thank you.
Joseph Borland, 47 Old County Road. Our family's owned that place since 1965. We're in support of a yes vote. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Name and address. Thank you.
My name is Kevin O'Malley. I live at 47 Crafts Road. And there's really 3 areas that we're looking at to upgrade. With these 3 areas, there's 114 houses that have limited water supplies in the summer for fire safety. Our firefighters will not have the tools to fight a fire in the summer in those 3 areas. In the winter, there is no water. There are 52 homes that are in the Fernald Walker area. There are 20 homes in the Hilltop and Valley Road area. Check that, 20 homes. I'm not sure I said that accurately. On the Hilltop and Valley Road area, there are 42 homes and 3 businesses on Rust Island to make that total of 144. All of these areas are heavily wooded areas that have either very poor, limited safety for our firefighters to work in the summer and no water supply in the winter. We've already been stated, Larry Russo stated how quickly a fire spreads, that in 1 minute, 60 seconds, it doubles in size. And I just like to take a moment to see what that looks like.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Please vote yes and support the people, the citizens of these three areas of the town. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else like to speak in support?
Hi, I'm Lisa McCray. My family owns 7 Cove Way on Rust Island. And for all of the reasons that everyone else has said, please vote yes to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Jillian on Zoom, so to bring her in, Madam Clerk, that would be great. Jillian, you're in. If you can introduce yourself, you have 3 minutes to speak to us in favor right now.
Hi, yes, this is Mike Whitney. I live at 3 North Landing Way. I'm just asking for you guys to keep us safe and vote yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Susan Davis.
My name is Susan Davies, 10 North Landing Way. Please vote yes. We would not survive a fire. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Seeing none, now we're time for the opposition. So would anyone like to begin here in Kairos first on your opposition to this? Name and address.
Russell Jacobs at 52 Fennell Street. My parents lived there since 47. And the city did a survey many years ago on Fennell Street. It's a mountain of rock. I spent a lot of money, and everybody on that street, all 20-something houses on artesian wells. We grew up with just a surface well, and it used to run out of water, but I don't have no problem in 20-something years I've been there. I'm not opposed with any of these beautiful people here about needing water. We all need water. But I'm afraid that one time there was a charge set off and a neighbor had his artesian well cracked and he lost the water. It damaged the water. That means from the head of Fennell to the other end of Fennell, they're gonna have to blast the entire area. Are you gonna pay for my well when it's destroyed? I'm not against having water there. I'm against having my well and everybody else that stands on that street, their well will be damaged. I'm very concerned about that. Is the city willing to pay me my $20,000 I spent for mine when my well gets damaged? And who's gonna pay for this? I mean, tax-wise. My concern is my taxes go up every year, huge jumps. And what do we get? You couldn't even throw a patch, a coal patch. We had to get the neighbors to fix our road. We begged the city for years to fix that road. No, not so much as a bucket, a shovel. That's my concern. My concern is mainly on my well. Every one of you council members, get ready to be paying for it. And I'm sure many other ones will have the same feeling about it because you're going to be responsible when you agree on this. Cross Island, I agree with them. They got bad water. They live on the ocean, right on an island, surrounded by salt water. I feel for them. If they need it, put it there. But I'm against it on Fennell Street.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Name and address. Thank you.
Gregory Doe, 7 Whites Mountain Road, also known as 13 Thompson Street. No disrespect to Rust Island, as their needs are real, as are ours. And I'm not speaking against you putting in a water line there. I'm requesting the council postpone this vote. This proposal is inadequate and does not address the needs of other neighborhoods. The bond proposal is exclusionary. In 2011, Whites Mountain, Becker Lane, Thompson Street came before the council, 25 homes, requesting water relief and fire protection. We have 300 acres of green belt behind my house. How many major fires have we had in that area? of over 20 acres, 3 fires in houses in my neighborhood. But we were voted down by the city council, including the present mayor. Fast forward 2023, here we are again, but we're not included in this bond proposal. Why? What's wrong with our neighborhood? Oh, we don't have deep water. We have a seasonal water line. It's just buried, leaks like a sieve. You've all read my letter today, or do I have to read that again? Everybody? Response? Did you all read it? Okay. We've been a year-round neighborhood that's been developed and allowed to build by the city. The city inspector approved permits for houses, but they didn't ask about how we were getting our water. It is garden hoses going to some houses. We have the same issues and needs as Rust Island. Threat of fire, bad water. To not be included in this bond is wrong. We invited Rust Island into our homes with just mutual needs, but now we're left behind. Why is that? You're asking to increase our water rates, to increase our taxes, but you're not giving us anything in return. We are in the same boat as the rest of those neighborhoods. Some of those neighborhoods, Valley Road, Walker Creek, they didn't even know about this. And now you're proposing to put water lines. As you said, buddy there says, I don't want a water line. They got water. They have good wells. They don't have fire protection though. We all have the needs. You should postpone this till it's re-looked at and bring it up for all needs of all residents. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Your name and address. You have 3 minutes to talk to us.
Hello, I'm Michael Jacobs, 31 Fernald Street, also opposed to Fernald Street only. Adequate water, not necessary. Save you guys millions for dynamiting through that road. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address.
Jane Fox Dobson, 14 Becker Circle. Unfortunately, the public notice in the Gloucester Daily Times goes unnoticed by many residents since they do not subscribe to the paper due to financial hardship or personal reasons. I believe the notice should be going out to the taxpayer via mail. As for Greg, I'll add on. We were quite surprised to learn that our neighbors on Rust Island and others residing on public roads are on a list to receive a hefty chunk of a $15 million improvement package. All Rust Island residents live on private roads. They have wells. At some point in time, the city of Gloucester provided them with seasonal water, and the city laid above ground water lines, but this was done at the taxpayer's expense. Additional maintenance, including opening and closing and flushing water lines, is also provided to them at the taxpayer's expense. So in my opinion, Rust Island residents have already received a very generous gift from the taxpayer in comparison to other adjacent neighborhoods that do not receive any city services and had to pay to install their water lines. There is no mandate that seasonal lines need to be replaced by deep water lines. The state of Massachusetts only has regulations on treatment process when opening and closing the water lines and flushing them properly. If the city installs deep water lines for Rust Island residents, these homeowners and landowners will receive a second gift at the taxpayer's expense. The city is not obligated to install deep water lines for Rust Island residents since they all reside on private roads. What is good for the goose is good for the gander, so perhaps a betterment is a fair approach. It is unjust to provide additional city services to an affluent community that resides on private streets, especially those that never had to install deep water lines at their expense. Based on the current online tax assessment, Rust Island has 44 properties with homes on them. The average assessed value for these 44 properties is $1.1 million. There are 22 vacant lots. 14 of the 22 vacant lots are owned by the same 44 homeowners. Some of these vacant lots were purchased at the following prices: $676,000 for 0.25 acres, $750,000 for 0.79 acres, $880,000 for 0.03 acres. If this water line is installed at the taxpayer's expense, I would suspect that these vacant lots will sell for big money, thanks to the taxpayer. Please note that one homeowner on Rust Island can advertise their VRBO for a whopping $1,052 a night. How can the city justify installing deep water lines for one of the most affluent neighbors in Gloucester at the expense of other taxpayers struggling to make ends meet? If you compare our neighborhood database, you will see how unfair and unjust this proposal is, especially since our neighborhood is also in need of city services. Please provide more information on this project, since the public notice did not, nor did it give guidance on where to find additional information. Please postpone this for further review and consideration. If this is approved, then I believe that all of us should be treated the same. Thank you. And I have 2-page database.
Give it to Joanne. She'll pass it out. Thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition that's in Kairos Auditorium right now? Thank you. Seeing none, let's go to Zoom. And I see one hand raised, Valerie Nelson.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
You can hear you, Val. So you have 3 minutes, name and address. Welcome.
Valerie Nelson, 7 Sunset Point Road, out in Lanesville. And I guess my primary points, and I very late in the day sent each of the counselors a 2-page list of my concerns. Let me just say that I feel I represent the taxpayers who have not been adequately informed, as Jane just said, and I would first like to petition that this all be delayed until adequate discussion and involvement of the taxpayers who are being asked in this proposal to bear the entire burden of the cost for, now I'm hearing, 144 homes. By the way, that's a benefit to them of about $100,000 a home. So other than delaying this, which I think is essential to look at this and have the public involved, I am primarily concerned that betterments have not been discussed at all. And these homeowners are beneficiaries of great value. And all over the city, certainly in North Gloucester, we paid for sewer betterments. Private road owners, they're doing betterments. The state law authorizes water betterments. You passed in April a change to the ordinance to allow on public and private roads water betterments. So you know that you just did that, and yet this is nowhere in the discussion. My review of the state and mass general laws is that, as Tony Gross said, this is an upgrade system. This fully, not a replacement, it fully qualifies for a betterment policy. And if this is not done, it is both fiscally irresponsible and completely inequitable to all the rest of us all over the city who have various needs and have been contributing to betterments. And why should we as taxpayers give on average $80 a year in taxes for $100,000 a home, $100,000 a home, and they are not contributing a dime? I'd like to go back though and really thank Mike Hale and the city for their going down this road of looking at lead in water lateral lines. I thank Tracy O'Neill for bringing this whole concern in the downtown in the ARPA process up. And I would say, if you ask the taxpayers, what are your priorities for spending? Would you spend money with no betterments attached at $100,000 a home for fairly affluent homeowners to benefit when there are 500,000 residents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on private wells with no fire hydrants because we cannot possibly afford? We will bankrupt the country.
10 seconds.
Bankrupt the state. And I would say that I, as a taxpayer, would prefer to have my tax money go to protecting the brains of the kids in the downtown who are taking in lead and having their lives destroyed, rather than spend taxpayer dollars on a privilege and unnecessary, non-mandatory system. If they want it.
Al, can you wrap up, because we've let you go over 3 minutes?
Yes, fine. I understand that they want this. Let them step up, as all of us do all over the city, and participate in a betterment process. And I believe it is fully legal, in spite of what is suggested by them, that it's not legal to do a betterment.
Val,
You-
Val, I'm letting you go way over. You
I
need to
know,
wrap
but
up.
you should, you
need-
know, but you do
but you
allow
need-
15, you
No.
allow 15 minutes for opposition. The public has had no time to talk, to hear about this, to deliberate it, to learn about it.
Val, we heard you. We thank you for being on the call. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition? Okay, is. Okay, we had one and she's not there. Okay, anyone else like to speak in opposition? I see no more hands raised. So at this point, I'd like to ask if administration would like to present a rebuttal to what you've heard. Part of the public hearing process. See anybody's hand? Oh, Linda McGarriston, her hand is raised now. So Linda, we'll bring you in. So you have 3 minutes to speak to us in opposition. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't understand why it's been so difficult to see why I actually had my hand raised. I wanted to speak earlier about a different matter. And I don't understand. I had a brief problem, a fleeting problem with my microphone. And suddenly I was, suddenly I was not there anymore. I would simply like to say that I have, tremendous understanding and compassion for everybody who lives in Gloucester in wooded areas with windy, inadequate roads and all of the other frightening things about living sort of country when it comes to fires and various other things. But when I bought my house in 2010, it was a $200,000 house. It was a little stucco bungalow of 900 square feet. And I inherited the $20,000 sewer betterment from the seller. And I have spent the last 10 years, well, no, I spent 10 years, but not the last 10 years, because I've finished it 10 years paying the betterment for the sewer. Now, Quarry Street has very few, or at the time, had many fewer homes than it does now, and very much more inexpensive homes than are the ones going in now. And a huge hunk of the city, a huge hunk of the street is owned by the city, but we were all expected to pay, everybody paid the same amount, 20 grand to get a sewer put in. My little, and I think a betterment is a betterment. And I understand that we all need water and we all need sewers as well. I agree with Valerie. I think Valerie did a very complete and moving presentation, as well as Jane, I believe, and many others. I appreciate the situation that the people of Rust Island are in. It's difficult. They are going to have to, it seems as though that they're going to have to spend money to bring water to themselves. I cannot imagine it's fair for the city to provide this for Rust Island, given the betterment habits that all the rest of us are used to picking up the tab for various things. I wish it were not so, but that's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, we will go back to the rebuttal. If an administration wants to rebuttal anything that has been said.
Go to school.
No, thank you. We're ready for questions whenever from counselors.
Okay. And in fairness to the opposition, if anyone like to speak for 3 minutes in opposition, but I think you just have done that, but we probably don't need to do that. Okay, sorry. So at this point, the next part of the public hearing is for a report from Madam Clerk on any correspondences that were received by Friday.
There were no correspondences for
Okay.
this matter.
Okay, thank you. And so now is the part of our process where we are able to ask questions. So what we typically do is we go in order of roll call, and then each counselor, I think first round, maybe 2 minutes of questions, but only when 3 minutes of questions. Is that okay with everyone? 3 minutes, and it's when you're asking a physical question. So it doesn't include the time where it's being answered. So Joanne, would you mind keeping track of that? So we'll start with Jason Grow, who is first on roll call tonight, and you can start with your 3 minutes of questions.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. Ms. Cahill, if we could speak first to the issue of the betterment questions and why it was decided to bring this forward as a debt shift versus a betterment process, and whether or not these projects existed as public projects and for how long.
So as I mentioned, we did an analysis. We considered all the options. We reviewed some of the past work on the betterments that were done, and seeing that this was an upgrade to a public water infrastructure, it was determined that the betterment was not the best way to go. And then, as I said, looking at paying for it through debt shift or water rates, the preferred way, and what we're putting in front of you is the debt shift. Obviously, it's the will of the council on whether or not to continue in that area. I shared with the council the water, I think that capital improvement plan for water, something is long title. It's been on the website. It's originally done in 2017, updated in August of 2023. Seasonal water has been on that plan, albeit not at the top of the plan. But again, as we said at the beginning of this, the residents came and spoke to the council, and the council asked us to bring a proposal forward. It is included in the plan. Like I said, I think I shared it with all the councilors today.
I saw the plan. Can you also explain the difference between the three projects that are proposed and the Becker Circle project that is not included in this particular loan authorization?
Becker Circle is private water infrastructure. The residents own the water infrastructure. All of the things included in this are public owned water infrastructure.
So they're public existing water structure. This is an upgrade to that overall system.
Correct.
A question actually for one of the speakers who spoke in favor, Larry. You spoke quite early on. You made some comment about this is 100 years worth of vegetation or forestry that hasn't been managed. And I want to ask you a question, not to put you on the spot, but if those properties are all owned by private residents, why is there not some sort of management process in place there? I mean, aren't the residents at some point responsible for managing their own properties and minimizing fire potential?
So this is kind of, we're going to suspend the rules of procedure. Is that, councilors, you want to do that?
Why is it a suspension of rules?
Well, because you're asking, I guess you could ask
Yeah,
a question.
he brought up a
So
point in the public
if
hearing.
you would come up and reintroduce yourself and help Council Grow answer that question. Thank you.
Larry Russo, 56 Yale County. So the answer to your question about managed growth, my family came to Wolf Hill in 1953, and when we looked across the river at Rust Island, there were no trees.
Right.
So this had been an unsettled growth period over decades until houses started to become built. Trees were cut to build houses. There's been quite a lot of opposition in the city about just cutting trees. But a lot of the growth and vegetation issues on the island are on city-owned property also.
They are.
Not just on private property.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get to, sort of the ratio of what constitutes sort of private responsibility versus public responsibility, and whether moving forward in the future, you might want to work with the fire department to determine sort of a pathway of vegetation management.
We do,
like
and
they
they
do in a
have
lot of
helped
places.
us.
Okay,
We
great.
also have some right-of-way issues on the island where we have no rights to do anything on that property. National Grid has a very large easement coming across the island parallel to the bridge.
Very good. Thank you. Again, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you brought it up and it's a relevant issue. The last question I guess I want to ask very quickly is if Kenny can come on board and explain a little bit about the consequences of debt shift versus any other financing mechanisms. We didn't have that in the presentation.
And Costa, our auditor, would you be kind enough to answer Councilor Grove's question?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Can you just give us a rundown of the financing of this particular project and how it's going to impact tax rates or your opinion on the issue of a debt shift versus a betterment system, and if a betterment system would have been appropriate in the situation?
I'm not able to speak on the betterment. I can speak to the tax rate. I did put together a couple of two files, two spreadsheets together that I can share with the council, if I could do so.
Joanne, could you pause on your timing right now and screen share the document from?
Ken.
Oh, Ken, go ahead. Ken, you can
That'd be great,
screen
Ken.
share. That
Thank
would
you.
be great.
It says that I'm disabled to participate.
Try again, Kenny.
Thank you. Can everybody see it? The title is Debt Service Calculator.
No.
Is everybody able to see it?
So,
Hold on.
hmm?
Kenny, is there a way to zoom in a little bit better?
Can you enlarge that, Kenny?
Thank you.
Okay,
That's great.
That's
Thank you,
better.
Kenny.
Yep. So this is actually on the Mass DOR website. It's called a debt service calculator. You're able to estimate what the debt service payments are, and this was also in consultation with John Dunn, CFO, treasurer, collector. So what I did here was I just estimated at a, as you know, the loan authorization is $15 million. So number one, putting in the amount borrowed. So there's a 15 million. And then we need to know the interest rate. Of course, the interest rate environment, it's changed drastically over the last few years, especially since COVID. Interest rates were at historic lows. Now they're starting to creep up again. Just recently in September, the city did issue general obligation bonds. So to be conservative, I used a 4.5% interest rate. And the next section is the term of the loan authorization. I did put in 20 years of the term to borrow. And to keep it simple, the next section, number 3, you can indicate the payment type. So you can put in, I checked off level debt service, which means it's the same amount each year over the 20 years versus level principal, which would mean the principal payment that we're paying back, that would be the same amount over the 20 years. So just to keep this simple, I included the level debt service. The other variable to this is the $15 million. As the project would start, the city would probably not borrow the 15 million all at once. So the 50 million would probably be borrowed over multiple years. So that's the other thing. So that's the variable because it could be at different interest rates and with different amounts. So again, this is just an estimate. This is just saying 15 million at 4.5% with a term of 20 years. So with that being said, the projected annual payment would be $1,153,142. And then the next section below, the projected total payments over the 20 years. So principal and interest would be 23,062,843, and the interest on the 15 million would be projected to be just over $8 million over the 20 years. And as you can see here, this is the 20 years of payments. And if any council has any questions, I'm going to move over to the other spreadsheet. If any councilors have any questions on this page.
Councilors, any questions on this page? Seeing none, continue. Kenny, thank you.
Yeah. Are you able to see? Let me try to see if I can. So this is a what if scenario for the 15 million. Is everybody able to see this? Yes. I can try to zoom in. So what we did here was we were trying to estimate the fiscal year 24 tax rate, which is the the year that we're in now. So essentially what we're doing.
You've been taping. Yeah. What do you mean? The hearing. Oh, how are you taping?
Can everybody hear me?
What's going on? Somebody is still on Zoom. Susan Davis, maybe, Joanne? Yeah. She's still a panelist. Yeah. Susan Davis, if you could put yourself on mute, we need to move you back because we can hear your conversation. Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So essentially this spreadsheet here, this is a what if scenario based off of 15 million, what the fiscal year 24 tax rate estimate would be. And this is also assuming that we're including the 1.03 shift as was voted by the Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting from last Thursday. So we're looking at essentially without the 15 million of the seasonal water debt shift and with including the $15 million seasonal water debt shift. And then also what we're doing is we're looking at just, different property values at 250,000, 500,000, 750,000, and 1 million. So I'll just start off with without the $50 million seasonal water debt shift. So for residential, we're looking at $9.73 per thousand as a tax rate. And the CIP, the commercial industrial personal property, we're looking at $10.05 per thousand. So at a property of 250,000, we're looking at annually a tax bill of $2,432.50 and CIP $2,512.50. And you can see that for 500,000, 750,000, and 1 million. As you can see here, this top section. I won't go through each number, but as you can see, that's the current without the $50 million seasonal water debt shift. Now the next below with the $50 million seasonal water debt shift, residential, we're looking at $9.85 per thousand. CIP, we're looking at $10.17. And this would be the projected amount. It would be the $2,462.50 for residential, and that would be an increase of $30 annually versus without the $50 million water seasonal debt shift, comparatively, $2,432.50. And the same with the CIP. We'd be looking at $2,542.50, and that would be a $30 increase. And as you can see, the 500,000 property value, the increase would be $60 for both residential and CIP. The $750,000 property would see an increase of $90 for residential and CIP, and a $1 million property value would see an increase of $120 for residential and CIP. And this would be annually, and this would be over, as I mentioned, it would be over a 20-year, period until the debt is paid off. And again, there's a lot of variables to this, so this is not, set in stone. Like each year, based on home values And again, with the borrowing, whenever the debt is issued, because as I spoke to John about this the last couple of days, it's very unlikely that that the city would borrow the 15 million all at once. It would be borrowed probably over, could be a 2 or 3 year period.
There's time for a quick follow-up. Am I good for 2 seconds? Kenny, you touched on what I was going to ask you next, which is that is this analysis based on borrowing all $15 million tomorrow, moving forward, so it'd be $30 a year based on it, but you're talking about borrowing incrementally based on when the project starts in each particular neighborhood or each phase of the project, correct? So that we're actually talking about less dollars per year than this would show over time.
Correct. So this is assuming that the 15 million would all hit at once, and we're also assuming that it's 4.5. By the time that we do borrow this, it could be 5% or more as far as the interest rate that we borrow. So that's a variable that's very unpredictable at this point.
It could be less.
Or it could be less. That's correct. It could be less.
Thank you. That's good. I'm good for now. Thanks.
Okay, so next on the roll call. Tony.
No, it's Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tony's last.
Frank Margiota.
I skipped again.
Stop.
Jason hit a lot of good points on the financial questions. I have a question. I said on the opposition, what could be done if there's any damages to other people's wells or their property if there is going to be, extensive dynamite or construction? What could be done to help those residents? That can be answered potentially.
Councilor Margiotta, I'm not sure I understand your question. Maybe I missed the point from the opposition. Is it during
yes.
our construction if damage is done to somebody's?
Well, yes. That lives on, was it Fernell Street, I believe they said. If there's construction done and damage is done to their well, what can be done through the city to help protect those residents?
Related to liability, I guess I would look at either Suzanne or Mike to how we, and obviously we do these public water infrastructure projects regularly. So I guess I would look to Suzanne or Mike to kind of how we normally shore up that liability piece.
Okay.
Suzanne or Mike, are you available to
here?
answer that?
Yes, I can answer that question. This is Suzanne. So typically, if there is property damage that a claimant feels is the city's responsibility due to negligence, then that person would file a claim against the city, and that claim would be sent to our insurance company, and the insurance company assigns an adjuster, and they review whether or not there's any negligence or liability on the part of the city. And so it is reviewed as just a typical property damage claim.
Continue.
And then one of my questions was with the loan, but was already answered. We're not taking the $15 million all at once, which is fine by me. And I guess this is a question because I have no idea. How much access do the public have to going onto Rust Island? Is the island cut off from the public, or is it just residents only? I just don't know. That's why I'm asking the question. I see a lot of head shaking there, so I think anyone can go on Rust Island. Okay.
So Mike Hale, would you mind answering this
sorry.
for us? Because I think we have a couple of different answers, but I think we understand overall. But Mike, if you're on the call, if you could just explain, that would be
The
great.
question being, is Rust Island open to the public?
Yes, I mean, there is a sign that says private. I just want to know, can anyone, drive down Rust Island and, drive down Crafts Rain Cove Way, North Landry Way, or any of
Many
this?
of these are private ways, Counselor, and and, they'd be opened by invitation by the abutters, to friends, family, deliveries, etc. I don't know if you could simply go down there and park and go to the river, but it certainly is, from basic standpoints, open to the public.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, Counselor?
Does the city of Gloucester plow the Rust Island and those streets?
Yes, like many other private developments or private roads, they're covered under the policy for snow removal.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Next is Council Memard.
Thank you. I believe that my question is probably best directed to our City General Counsel, Suzanne Egan. And based on the conversation and some of the points that have been made in the discussion this evening, it appears that the key crucial question in terms of how the city approaches the question of how best to pay for this kind of debt is whether we have private ways, but these are what is legally considered to be a public water service versus being private ways with private water services where, in fact, the city would have no ability to get involved with paying for it, and it would be clearly paid through a betterment by the abutters, not by the city. Could you just clarify that, Suzanne?
Yes, could you, I would love to clarify and provide an answer, but could you clarify a little bit your question to me? Are you asking whether or not the proposed infrastructure that it currently exists is public water infrastructure versus private?
I believe the way it's been proposed by the administration to pay for it with a debt shift in the taxes is because these are defined as being private ways with public water service. Is that not correct?
Yes, that is correct. But yes, that is the reason why this is being proposed to be paid in this manner.
As distinguished from private ways with private water service.
Right. So if it was private ways with private water service, the city would have, they wouldn't own that water service and then would, have to look at another way to pay it through a water betterment process.
My question. Thank you.
Next person is Council Nolan.
So far, all the questions have been really good. I don't have anything to add to at this moment.
Council O'Hara.
Thank you. I think this question would be for Mike Hale. Mike, how long has Rust Island and the roads on Rust Island been in the plan of the city of Gloucester to install deep water?
I don't have a specific, an exact timeline on that, Councillor. Eliminating seasonal water has been in our secondary planning phases for as long as I've been with Public Works, and that's been since '99. We've eliminated it slowly but surely. We've even taken a chunk out of getting the water main closer to EO County Road, with the hydrants just past Lobsterland at presently. We've eliminated numerous smaller sections of seasonal water throughout the city. What's left in front of us are some larger chunks of it.
Okay, thank you. And as far as the other seasonal water lines that the city's replaced to or moved from seasonal to deep water, who has paid for that?
Those projects are so small, they would just handle through the budgetary process.
So the city ultimately paid for that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, as far as Rust Island as a whole, there are a number of roads. Are any of those roads public roads on Rust Island?
It's a complicated issue with DOT transferring some taken land from the creation of Route 128 and the overpasses, where the public roads extend in briefly on Biskie Head, EO County, and Crafts, but not too far though.
So there are, there are public roads. I know it's complex, but that there, yes or no, the answer is yes, there are public roads on Rust Island.
Yes.
Thank you. I think that the next question is for Suzanne, if she's available.
Yes, I'm
Susan?
available. Yep.
Sure, thank you. And this may not be directly related, but this whole issue is clearly complex. But as far as the city taking ownership or owns the surface water lines and has owned the surface water lines and maintained the surface water lines, is this what where we are headed to financing this? This is the normal process that the city has used over time. I've already asked Mike here, but from the legal standpoint, this is the way we've operated as far as paying for transferring the surface to deep water.
Well, so I would concur with Mike that we have done that in the past, yes. And in most instances, or almost all instances, when we do improvements to our water infrastructure system or public water infrastructure system, it's paid for through public funding.
Thank you. I am all set. Thank you.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. I guess I have to ask the question, will there be blasting through granite? Is that why these pipes are above the frost line? Because they lay on granite rock? I guess it's for Mike.
Two separate questions. Seasonal water is typically just laid near the surface or on the surface for convenience, because only intended to serve seasonal water, does not have to be buried to protect it from freezing. Will there be blasting? We have not engineered any of this yet. We've just in the very beginning planning stages of this. We live on Cape Ann. Very few projects that we take on, blasting's not included.
So you said regarding the first question, oftentimes these pipes are laid on the surface or close to the surface for convenience, right?
Yes.
So, and in this report, hold on, the capital improvement plan report, is blasting included in this report in the 15 million? Or is that going to be an additional expense if we have to blast?
There is a rock quantity carried in those estimates. And again, they are estimates because we are not at the stage of engineered plans.
So it's very possible that we're going to be going through granite, right?
It's likely, very likely.
Would there be any benefit to the city of using what granite comes out of this? In other words, can we, as opposed to throw it away, would there be a way to sell it as salvage? Or can we get anything for this granite that comes out of the ground as opposed to just throwing it in a landfill? Is there any kind of a company that would take it, or?
So blasted ledge is not the same thing as cut granite. If you're referring to the quality of stone that would come out of these trenches, it comes out in very small pieces. It can be reprocessed to be used as common burrow as we backfill these trenches. It goes through a process where it's crushed and made into processed gravel. It's usually the contractor's responsibility for disposal, in which they bring it to a gravel pit, which would be processed there to make additional material at some other time.
So I'm sorry to ask so many questions, but we would be filling in around these pipes as well, right? So we could we use our own gravel from these rocks? I mean, is that common use? I'm just trying to figure out a way to not spend so much money.
You're not going to do it by this method. In order to have a processor on site, we need to have a large laydown area where you're going to bring in a rock crusher into a residential neighborhood and be crushing rock, 40 hours a week.
Oh, okay. All
So
right, thank you.
yeah.
I'm all set. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Next person for questions is Council Worthley.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the members of the audience here tonight. I have a few questions. I was able to ask some of them at our Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I asked a few questions of Ms. Cahill earlier this morning, but I think I'd like to just make sure all of them are answered and on the record too. So the first question, this is a Jill Cahill or Mike Hale question. In the minutes of the meeting, you said that instead of focusing on one neighborhood, we looked at all summer water. And can we be assured, I think Mike would know since he's responsible for shutting it off and turning it on, can we be assured that all neighborhoods that have summer water are being addressed with this? I don't know if the money is enough for it, but are being addressed with this loan authorization.
What I was asked to do is look at the city-owned seasonal water for replacement. And we believe we've captured it all. Could there be a random house that has seasonal water off a deep water main? You see that occasionally, but this is what we believe we turn on and off seasonally in the city of Gloucester.
Thank you. Could you help reconcile the investment of public funds on private roads, given the policy position of this administration of not putting public money into private roads? I have an understanding, but I want to be clear. Could you help me with that, either Mike or Jill or Suzanne, please?
I can take a bite at it. The city has limited authority to spend public money on private ways. And it's not the administration's choice, it's state law. If there is in fact a situation where there is private water on a private way, it is not the responsibility of the city financially to replace that. Could they enter into a betterment program? The council's allowed that, and they could do so.
I'm sorry, though, the money that's being asked for today will be spent on private roads. Well, not on the roads, but on the infrastructure in the private roads. Can you just help us understand
It'll
how
be
that?
spent on the public infrastructure within private ways. And there's a whole lot of public infrastructure within private ways in this city.
I understand. Thank you, Mike. Is it this belief that a betterment is not a legal option here since the city already owns the infrastructure?
I guess if that's a legal question, Suzanne is the correct answer or the correct person to answer. If you're looking for legal advice.
So your question was whether or not a water betterment was not an option to assess a water betterment for this project?
I'm not asking
Is
to
that your
assess
question?
it, but I'm just asking if at
I'm
one
sorry.
point someone said it was not legal to have neighbors spend to be bettered or charge a betterment because it's public infrastructure. Can you verify that?
Well, the statute that was adopted or the statutes that were accepted by the council and the ordinance that was adopted earlier this year, it's chapter 42G, I believe, is water. The council has the authority to assess a betterment for laying water lines in public or private ways. So there's nothing that legally prohibits an assessment of betterments for this project.
Could someone just explain why this is a better choice?
As we said to you twice, I think I've said it twice now, you asked us to do an analysis and put a proposal in front of you of what we think is the best way. We think, staying in line with our traditional policies of upgrading and how we upgrade and maintain public water infrastructure is through either, as Mike has said in the past, either through water rates, the general fund, or debt shifts. And so our proposal to you is to continue along that trajectory.
Thank you. Is there anything about our vote tonight, either yes or no, that would impact the ability for White's Mountain Road, Becker Circle, Walker Creek, Haskell Court? Is there anything about the vote tonight that would negatively impact their ability to have their projects done?
I don't know every single one of those, but again, they're not, I don't think I think they're apples and oranges. This is public water infrastructure. I know, for example, Becker Circle is private water infrastructure, so I don't think they impact each other at all. I don't know every one of those that you listed by name.
It's fine. So our vote tonight wouldn't positively or negatively impact their ability to get projects done in those neighborhoods. Is that correct?
I don't think they're related.
Which state agency is providing us the city guidance on this project? Or upgrading these summer water lines?
Mike, if he wants, we can go into more detail, but in general, DEP regulates water and we follow their guidance. Yes, it is best practice overall for us to continue to make improvements to seasonal water. It's a lot of work for our team. We try to follow their guidance. We do the best that we can. It is not a mandate.
Okay. Will the city need easements from the property owners in these affected neighborhoods?
Yes, I don't know the specifics though. That would be probably something we need to get into as we get into design.
I don't think the how is answered today, but it will be necessary. I'm sure between Councilor Nolan and the administration, there'll be an outreach to the neighborhood to figure out how to do that. If this were approved tonight, do we have a rough guess? I know there's a lot of variables, but do we have a rough guess when this project would be done? It's probably a Mike Hale question.
If the project was voted tonight, given the time of year, I wouldn't expect engineering to begin until the first of the year. There's just not enough time between now to the two major holidays that are in front of us. So you'd start engineering and permitting and, midwinter. Hopefully you have a bid package ready to hit the street. Late spring, early summer. There's multiple streets here, depending on which street is done first. Some of these streets are faster than others. Some of them are going to be multi-construction season projects.
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. Some of these will be multiple season projects?
Some of these projects will be multiple season projects, so spanning more than one construction season.
Got it. There's a question about the blasting on Fernald Street. Is there, and I think Council Majota raised the question.
It's your last question, then we're going to come back to you.
Okay.
Because you're over your time for asking questions.
I thought it was just timed on the questions,
That's
not the
exactly
answers.
what we're counting right
Wow,
now. Just
that's
your time.
impressive.
So
Wow. So, is there, I know you, I'm sorry. Attorney Egan, you said that if there was blasting that was done negligently and could be proven that it was negligent, then homeowners who had damage done to existing wells could then make a claim with the city. Is there a more efficient way where maybe neighbors could identify what their wells look like now? I don't know how that even would work, but and then have some assurance or insurance to be assured that any blasting is done, if there's damage, that the city would cover that.
I think that that would require that the city obtain a specific insurance policy for that. And I don't think that that is something that we've contemplated, or whether or not that would be something that would even be offered. So it sounds like what you're asking for is a strict, almost a strict liability insurance policy. And typically that is not done. As a municipality, our liability is really driven by the sort of the old fashioned concept of sovereign immunity, where we're liable for certain things that the state legislature has decided to have public entities liable for. And so it's a complicated process and question as to where the liability ends when there's property damage resulting from any activity of the city. So we would only insure something that we could obtain an insurance policy for. There is no strict liability for projects like this, and there would be no guarantee that the city would be compensating anybody for any damage caused by the construction, unless there is a finding that the city is legally obligated to do that, and that is an insured liability.
Thank you. I think my time was up for questions.
Go back to another round if we
Thank
need
you.
to. So I'm next. So I've got a couple of questions. One is probably to Jill Cahill. So on Rust Island, if a owner does not have a fire hydrant anywhere near their house, and there is a fire, what is the availability of a pump truck, I think they call it, that supplies water when there's no other source to put out a fire? What is our availability of having, I think it's called a pump truck, Council Nolan? Oh, tanker truck. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong. I'm so grateful that Council Nolan is always here to straighten me out on my wrong terminology. But what is the possibility of a tanker truck not being available to help put out a fire if one of the houses is that far away from a fire hydrant?
I don't know that I can answer that specifically, but the Fire Chief Smith has repeatedly said on this issue that if there's a fire, we will get there. However, we need to get there, we will get the tanker trucks there. He has repeatedly said that from his perspective, we are able to address fire hazard in this area.
And are new homes that are there, are they required to have sprinkler systems if there's currently no fire hydrants?
That's a fire code question.
Okay. I think I know the answer. So, because I've asked this before, but I believe it is required for new homes if there's not fire hydrants within a certain amount of distance. So, okay. So my next question is, does the loan authorization, as noted, include full payment or just general milling?
Mike had addressed this earlier. I think again, this is an estimate. And we have included an estimate for covering what we have, what we dig up. So this is not, the estimate does not include curb to curb paving of any private ways.
My next question is, we had originally thought that the number was probably close to about 11 million. But we're being conservative by requesting 15 million over a certain amount of increments over time. We only end up paying what we need. Is that correct on a loan authorization?
John's probably better answer this, but I've learned a lot from John. Yeah, we only issue debt for what we actually take on. Correct, John?
That is correct. So again, we always tend to round up on loan authorizations to make sure we don't fall short, but we're only going to spend what we're going to spend. And in the end, whatever is left, we rescind.
And so this loan order tonight, if approved, is just specifically for what is in front of us. And if we were under budget, we would not be able to go and stretch it out to include any other areas that maybe we wanted to include, but we weren't able to tonight. Is that correct? This is specific
Um,
to what's in front of us.
Well, Counselor, you could amend the order to make it more liberal or more conservative. So that is completely up to the council.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is, in the minutes of the meeting, there, it was commented that the CFO, CAO added that the administration is exploring other funding sources, specifically possibly with Senator Tarr. Is that something that we could benefit from still, even with putting this in? Are we going to be looking as to ways that we could lessen this amount of $15 million if over 20 years, if we were able to find additional funding, supplementary ways to pay off for this project? Is that
Yeah, John always writes the loan orders to include that any grants that we're able to receive towards the project, we can accept them. You know, obviously, and then, yes, we have worked with Senator Tarr, Senator Markey's office about the possible of some SRF funding. But as you know, we have a lot of large sewer and water projects ahead of us, particularly wastewater, that might be more suitable and eligible for these programs. So we have to weigh what our asks are going to be to both the state and federal government.
great? Thank you. Those are my questions. And the last person up for questions is Councilor Gross.
Yeah, I have a question for Suzanne. On the betterment. Now, I know, back, when they were doing North Gloucester and the betterment, only the sewer was eligible for betterment. Water was not, because it was already public infrastructure. Now, you're saying that that law has changed, or because that was my firm belief, was that this was not eligible for betterment because it's already public infrastructure.
So, Councilor Gross, the city council accepted as the statute earlier this year, allowing the city to assess a betterment for laying water pipes on public and private ways.
Right. I'm not talking about our ordinance. I'm actually talking about the financial law that governs betterment, how a
So
city
that-
can actually
that-
assess betterments.
So in, when the North Gloucester sewer was constructed and in place, the city had not accepted the general law. So that was a sewer assessment law that the city had in place at that time. I wasn't here and I'm not familiar with the details of that project, but any water betterment that would be assessed, or any betterment that would be assessed as a result of this project would be pursuant to that law that was accepted by the city council earlier this year.
All right. And this other question's for John Dunn. If we want to amend this order, if there is the will of the administration to accept other areas, and we want to amend this order, is that a possibility? Broaden the scope?
That is always a possibility, Counselor. As long as the mayor would agree to amend the order. Yes.
And to, some other concerns that we heard tonight, Mike Hale, this question's for you. Could we remove, let's say, Fernald Street if the consensus on that road is that we don't need it? Why waste this money? Could we? I would assume that that's a possibility to narrow the scope of this also.
I don't see why that would be an issue. That'd certainly be up to the administration, but if the neighbor does not want something, that they think it's to the detriment of their neighborhood, I think a neighborhood like Fernald Street could certainly inform the city councilor or an at-large councilor of that and bring it to the mayor's office.
All right, thank you.
So that concludes the first round of questions. Council Worthley, did you want to ask some?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. So
questions.
let's go and roll call vote order again for a second round of questions. So Council Grow.
I have a quick follow-up question for Mike on that issue of a street opting out. I guess the question I have is if the purpose is to get rid of surface water in all public parts of our system, why would we allow one street to opt out of that system? And how are you going to work around providing deep water in the adjoining streets, neighboring streets, and not that street moving forward? And isn't that kind of counter to the charge of getting rid of the deep or getting rid of the surface water?
It's yes and no. I mean, Fernald Street's a very small run of surface water. There's deep water on either side of it, Bray Street and Essex Avenue. It's not one that gives us as much trouble as some of the larger used systems. But again, I said it's a possibility. It'd be brought to the council, then to the administration.
Okay. And the next one is it my understanding that we're going to get the same level of increased fire coverage on all three projects, that we're going to have fire hydrants installed according to code in those neighborhoods, so that is eliminated for all the streets on this particular projects, all three of them?
Fire hydrants will be installed per American Water Works standards and the fire code standards on all of our projects.
Okay. And I want to get back to this idea of allowing streets to opt out of public projects. Is that a precedent that we really want to be setting if we get into a situation where we have a project that's of relative importance to get done, and we have people who decide this year that they don't want to do it, but 5 years from now, people are going to be asking why didn't we do it? And I guess I'm just curious whether or not that's a sound reasoning to allow that to happen. Call that a rhetorical question, maybe. I'm done.
Okay. There is an attendee with a hand raised, but I just want to make it known that we're at the next stage of the public hearing right now, which is questions. So I'm going to ask Council Majota, do you have any more questions to ask?
I have no questions for this round.
Council Memard, your hand was raised?
Yes, please. This is partly a observation and then more importantly, a big question. It's evident from what we're looking at here that the city has issued building permits historically for development and permitting over the years without requiring infrastructure investment by the builders or developers. For example, I can recall when the Heron Wave Marina was constructed on Rust Island, and they were permitted and approved based on having a fire hydrant, which they do have, it's just not connected to the water service. So, I mean, this problem has emerged over time as a result of a lack of consistent enforcement. And so that's the observation. The question is then clearly going forward, what can we do as a city to make sure that we, as we do additional development, which is a huge concern on all of our parts, and adequacy of infrastructure to serve that new development, but particularly on these private roads where homeowners are building homes, but they're not making the additional investment, either the homeowner or the developer or the builder, to upgrade the infrastructure to service that new development area. And what we're looking at here is a consequence of time and lax permitting and enforcement again and again and again, so that now we're correcting for past mistakes, and it's very expensive, and it's become on the city rather than the people who profited and benefited from developing that undeveloped lot or land, that vacant Rust Island that didn't have a single house on it. There was a picture recently of the church on Washington Street with no homes around it. not that long ago, and look where we are now. But we've allowed that development unfettered. And so I don't, it really is a question for Jill and for the administration, I believe, but we've allowed this problem to evolve so that now we're in a situation where we have to do these very expensive Band-Aids at the cost to the entire city, which I can understand people can feel isn't appropriate or fair. Jill, do you want to try and help me on
Well,
that?
honestly, Counselor, that's a bit of a rhetorical question too. I obviously can't speak to the past and I can't tell
Understand.
the future.
Whether
But I can make the observation that in my time as both Community Development Director and Chief Administrative Officer, and I think that Mike, who is very involved in these projects as well, I think that if you review the infrastructure that's been required on private roads and private developments, again, in the time that I've observed, they've been very stringent and very clear on who's responsible for what. And this comes up often. Some people say, should they be allowed to? Should they not be allowed to? If you do not think they should be allowed to, then you, the legislative body, have the ability to make changes to policy. But my observation of the current boards and my time here is that they work within the policy and the zoning and the requirements that are issued to them. So I can only speak to what I've observed in current time. I can't speak to the future, but you guys are all the legislative body. So if there are changes you want to make to the law to enforce that, feel free. We welcome it.
Thank you. I mean, we go back and forth between being labeled a difficult community to build and develop in to being a rollover that the ZBA will approve anything that comes before them. So, I mean, it really is a pertinent point and something that we all need to consider. Thank you.
Next up for questions, as we go for second round, Council Nolan.
I just have one question. This is for Mike Hale, and I just want to confirm that this is about replacing city-owned water infrastructure at this point, and that's what this hearing is for, is to replace city-owned infrastructure on private and public roads, correct?
Yes, Councilor Nolan, the seasonal water that we're discussing tonight is city-owned and controlled.
Thank you.
Next person after Council Nolan is Council O'Hara.
No questions.
Thank you. Council O'Neill.
Thank you. I am looking at the capital improvement plan on page 2. There's a table and I don't know, I'm guessing this would be for John Dunn. I can see that there's $11,495,000 allocated for summer line upgrade water costs. That's what we're talking about tonight. But the full project of this plan is $39,315,000. Which there's a difference of $24,315,000. Has any of that 24 million been borrowed, or is that something we can look forward to after this 15 million?
Well, that's an interesting question, Counselor. I don't have that document in front of me, so I would have to look at it more in detail. Right now, we're just talking about, a proposed 15 million to correct and upgrade these water lines. And, as we move forward from year to year, every number is going to change. And also the scope of each project could change. So I want to defer answering your question unless I take a look at exactly what you're seeing and asking questions about.
I would just add, Counselor, that you should expect, the city should expect additional funding and funding requests and spending on improvements to water infrastructure for eternity. It will continue to grow. It will continue to change. Again, Mike would know best on what we've picked off that list or not, but yes, we will continue to bring you water infrastructure improvement requests.
Okay, so
Nauseam.
I just want to ask this a different way, maybe. have any of these projects begun? Any of these any of these projects on this capital improvement plan dated August 2023, have any of these projects begun? And has any money been borrowed for any of these projects?
It just updated in August and I'm trying to recall it. I'd have to look at it too. I can pull it up if you want me to follow up with you. Mike, I don't know if you know off the top of your head or if you're looking at it. I don't believe we brought you anything since August.
No, I was trying to scroll between this screen and the document, which is difficult to do without a mouse on me. There is more water in front of us than we really want to talk about. There's a lot of water projects to be done. Most of our water system was constructed in the 30s. So it is at its life expectancy or past it at this time. The most recent projects, if they're on that list still, was the Mount Pleasant Ave neighborhood. That was one of the older water mains in East Gloucester. The Bertoni and York neighborhood, that was done a few years ago. That because of some public interest kind of outpaced some higher priority projects that were on that list and still remain undone. We haven't done a whole lot of water in the last 5 years.
So, thank you. Mount Pleasant Ave is not on this list and Mount Pleasant Ave has been done. So in my mind, this 15 million, which is actually 11,495, but we're gonna borrow up to 15 million, I guess. This is the beginning of this $39 million project. That's the way I read it. So I just want people to know that there will be more. And as you said, obviously, it's just astounding amount of money. Okay, thank you.
Council Worthley.
Yes, I just have one question, but it's for a number of people. May I challenge Councilor Nolan, this entire council, the administration, and the Russ Island neighborhood to help advocate for and find a solution for the White Mountains Road and Becker Circle in the very near future. Ms. Cahill, maybe you could speak for the administration.
I believe we are more than willing to work with the counselor in the neighborhood on the options that are available to improvements to private water infrastructure.
Thank you. That's all I can ask for at this point. I'm good. Thank you.
Next is Council Gilman. Yes, thank you, Councilor. I have no extra questions right now. Councilor Gross.
No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. So councilors, this concludes our public hearing. So I'm going to bang the gavel right now and ask for committee report.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing, if I may. There was someone on the call, you said you weren't going to add them on to this, but it was, I think it's a city employee firefighter who was going to answer your question about fire hydrants, Joseph Johnson. If it's not that person, I don't want to upset the momentum here, but city employee answering a question, I thought that might be a different scenario.
We did not bring him in, so I think we're good. Thank
Okay.
you. So I'm going to hit the gavel and close the public hearing and ask for the committee report.
Committee report on public hearing 2023-052, loan order 2023-004, loan authorization request in the amount of $15 million for seasonal waterline replacement project and shift of debt service for seasonal waterline replacement project. This is from our budget and finance discussion on October 19th, 2023. A, loan order, committee recommendation on a motion by Councilor Memhard, seconded by Councilor Worthley. Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council approve the loan order as follows. Ordered, that the City of Gloucester appropriates $15 million to pay costs associated with the replacement of municipal seasonal water lines in the following general areas: Valley Road neighborhood, Fernald Street, Lincoln, Walker Streets, Rust Island neighborhood, and any other identified area, including costs incidental or related thereto. To meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, or pursuant to any other enabling authority. The mayor and any other appropriate official of the city are authorized to apply for, accept, and expend any grants or gifts that may be available to the city to pay costs of the projects. Any premium received by the city upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. And further ordered that the treasurer is authorized to file an application with the Municipal Finance Oversight Board to qualify under Chapter 44A of the general laws, any or all of the bonds authorized by this order, and to provide such information and to execute such documents as the Municipal Finance Oversight Board may require for these purposes, and I so move.
Second.
Motion is made by Council Memard, seconded by Council Worthley. Is there a committee report?
I think we've gone over that pretty thoroughly at this point. We had a good discussion at Budget and Finance, and we've dug into even further depth in the public hearing tonight.
Okay, thank you. So at this point, we have a motion, second, and it's time for discussion. So why don't we go through the normal protocol, and we'll start with the roll call, and we'll do 2 minutes of Scott first. And then, is 2 minutes about right for the first round of discussion? Okay, so Council Memard.
I'm supporting the administration's proposal here as the best way to tackle a thorny and longstanding problem. And I appreciate very much their responsiveness to the concerns of the citizenry that have been brought up and are being dealt with in what appears to be a financially, fiscally responsible manner. It's a lot of money, and it's addressing a problem that has been allowed to evolve and grow, but we are addressing it and moving forward so that these folks can have clean water and reliable fire safety and sleep well at night. So that's important. So I will be supporting this.
So we're going to go by roll call for, this is discussion right now. So next is Councilor Majota, right? Wasn't it? Oh, Grow, I'm sorry. I
Messed
my
you up.
list.
Pretty out of order.
Councilor Grow, you're next.
That's me. I too am going to support this. I think what's become really evident in a lot of these projects that have come forward is that we have spent decades avoiding our responsibility as a city and as residents and as taxpayers of doing what is necessary at the time that it's necessary. And instead, we've allowed these problems to perpetuate themselves. I'm really glad that Scott brought up the issue of previous projects being allowed to be developed without proper oversight, without proper engineering plans. I do know that the city and the boards and commissions are much more aggressive about ensuring that those kinds of problems don't exist moving forward. But that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot of cleanup and a lot of residual problems to deal with it because of that. And you know, the era of nudge, nudge, wink, wink is got to be shut down entirely. And that means that we're going to have to tackle these kinds of projects when they come up. We're going to have to bite the bullet and fund them when appropriate. You know, I do feel for the folks who are talking about the projects that are privately built and privately maintained. And hopefully we can find a resolution to that. I do understand those concerns, and I especially am concerned about the fire safety aspect of it. But at the same time, we have an obvious list of a lot of projects that the city has neglected for too long. And this is an indication that we're going to start taking these projects one at a time, 3 at a time, whatever it takes to get them done. It's going to cost money. It's going to cost me money. It's going to cost you money. But if we don't do it, it's going to cost our kids a hell of a lot more money. And I'm not prepared to do that. So I will be supporting this. I'm likely to support other projects that are coming forward because I think it's time to get our house in order, and this is how we do it.
Thank you, Counselor. Next up is Counselor Majota.
No, very well said, Council Grow. I think that the main thing is whether you live in Rust Island or anywhere else, you're a citizen of Gloucester. And fire safety is important and the safety of your families. We're all Gloucester residents. So if there's a project done in a particular part of town, you're paying for it or I'm paying for it. So it's very important to think that we're all citizens of Gloucester, and that's number one. So that's why I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Counselor Nolan.
I thank you. I will be supporting this. I'm very happy to support this. The more we have fire hydrants and water, the better. We have a long way to go. We still have a lot of other roads in West Gloucester that could use some help, including Becker Circle, Becker Lane, the remainder of Woodman Street. Very important to have that taken care of. This is a first step in a grand plan of how we get there. We have listened for years, some of us for up to 8 years now on the council and some newer, of listening to past practice and things that just weren't done. And maybe they weren't done because it was easy and it wasn't that bad yet. And now, right now, I'm looking at a large room full of people that take a chance every time they try to sip of their water and not knowing if it's going to be, bad or brackish or full of salt, or whether their faucets are rotten out in the house or in all those areas. So I'm very happy to support this. We do have a lot more work to do around the city on getting caught up. We believe we have the council and the administration to make this happy, but we do have to ask everybody to work with each other because that's how we get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Nolan. Counselor O'Hara.
I will be supporting this tonight. I think it's very clear that the city has a precedent that they've already established as far as replacing surface lines to deep water. The public safety aspect is paramount. And I thank my fellow councilors for this discussion. And I hope we can move this forward. And as far as the Becker Circle, Thompson Road, and other areas, we need to address those as well. Everyone deserves to have fire protection, and with fire protection, they will have adequate drinking water. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor O'Hara. Counselor O'Neill.
Thank you. I will be supporting this. I just don't want Becker Circle and Thompson Road area to get lost or forgotten. That's a big concern to me. Valley Road and was it from who was the gentleman on Fernald Street that said residents at Fernald Street and Valley Road didn't was it Valley Road, they didn't even know about this? Somebody said that. Maybe he's gone, but I find that pretty alarming that they weren't notified. I guess they'll be notified when we make the decision, right? Part of me wants to postpone this until all residents can be notified and find a way to include White's Mountain Road, sorry, and Becker Circle. And also the extra 24 million that's coming behind this 15 million is a grave concern, given the fact I don't know how much we owe on the new school, how much we owe on the library, how much we owe on the police station, and the DPW needs work. We're spending, and I hope next year's council can find a way to rein in expenses. But this is an important thing for people to have water and clean water and fire hydrants. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Counselor O'Neill. Counselor Worthley.
Yes, I would like to start with commending Councilor Nolan for pulling this together. Your advocacy for your constituents and our constituents has been second to none. So thank you for pulling that together. I want to thank the mayor's office for working with the council in finding a solution to solve these problems here. And to Mike Hale and the DPW, I know you're juggling a lot to pull this together as well. I appreciate that. I empathize with the people who have paid betterments in the past. I think this is a different way of looking at things. This is a community problem. It affects all of us, but it also means that we need to stand together and support the other neighbors who were with you, standing with you at the beginning of this outset. So I really want to challenge you when those issues come up later to not disappear, because I think that White's Mountain Road, Haskell Court, Thompson, Becker Lane Circle, sorry, all of them deserve the same kind of advocacy. There was at some point a claim that this is an affluent neighborhood. I don't know many people yet in this neighborhood. I appreciate you coming here tonight. I know that there's some valuable homes that pay a lot of taxes. I also know that there are people with big mortgages. They've inherited homes. Sometimes that they're not able to afford those homes, and they're doing the best they can. So I don't want anybody to get any impression this is us favoring a wealthy neighborhood over any others, because that's not the case. But I also just want to say my empathy and fear for the things you feel when you see those videos of a house catching on fire. My hope is that you can sleep well at night once this project is done. And I know how hard it's been just wondering anytime you smell smoke if that's going to be your house and your family. So I'm absolutely going to support this. Thank you again, Councilor Nolan, and thank you to the people who came out tonight to advocate strongly for your neighborhood. Thank you. Perfect.
So I'm next, and then Councilor Gross. I do want to remind everybody that after this vote, we have a second vote, which is the shift of the debt service as well. So just to make sure that we're clear. I've certainly realized, having been a counselor for 8 years, that we have done a lot of kicking the can down the road. And we also learned that when we talked to the mayors, we watched them in that 400th celebration where they had all 6 mayors all talking about all the things that are kicked down the road. And I appreciate the fact that we're starting to make some good, solid infrastructure movement, but it does come with a cost. So I think we have to understand that. One of the things I'd like to consider in the upcoming council is when we get a document like this capital improvement update, which is recent, that maybe we have a joint meeting with the Capital Advisory Board, with administration and with us and the public, just to kind of talk through it and understand what's in front of us, so we can start knowing what is coming up in front of us, and start being more proactive with how we really need to start tackling all this. I live in a house where we don't have close fire hydrants, and we've had 3 fires. And the first one was before we moved in. It was 26 years ago, and it required pulling water out of our quarry to get the fire out, and it was a huge fire of our roof. And so I think we're all faced with some of these dilemmas that are very concerning. We have woods all surrounding so many of our houses, and we've got to. I love seeing that administration's looking at ways to start doing more emergency fire egress in the trails, and looking at ways to start being more proactive. So when we have a real fire in the woods, we can get to it. I think that this has been a healthy conversation, and I was at that first meeting at Lobster Land and heard you all at that point, and I've stayed close. And it takes a village to get these things escalated, and we want to do our best to make everybody safe. So I think that's important. I will be supporting this.
You're over your time.
Thank you. Here, let me give you the gavel, Joey, but thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for keeping me honest. And then the last person on the discussion on this matter is Council Gross, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I was under the impression, that this is not eligible for betterment, but now knowing that, I think that opens the pathway for other neighborhoods to be considered on this. So I hope, as has been spoken earlier, I don't hope, but I think we owe it to everyone to try to get all the streets we can to get them as safe as possible and to get them up with adequate water supply. Now you see as that we have, as Councilor O'Neill, stated, that there's still, 25 million dollars left here. And that is a lot of old stuff that's just never been dealt with. And that's Gloucester's fate. That's what we get for being 400 years old. I'm going in Thursday for a new knee, and that's what happens. When you get old, it gets expensive.
You're not 400 years old, are you?
No, but this, I'm really, I'm actually, I feel much better about the fact that this was eligible for a betterment, and that then now we can try to address some of these other areas of need. Although we see what the price tag is, and there's no way we can, I would love to be able to rein in costs, but as costs keep escalating for everyone, they escalate for the city. And as we keep getting older, our needs keep increasing, and we don't have much choice on that. So anyway, as you can probably tell, I'm going to vote in favor of this.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've exhausted this topic, and so we're ready for a roll call vote. And the roll call vote requires 2/3, so it requires 6 affirmative votes. So we're going to start with Councilor Grow,
Your first affirmative.
Councilor Majota,
Yes.
Councilor Memard,
Yes.
Councilor Nolan,
Absolutely.
Councilor O'Hara,
Yes.
Councilor O'Neill,
Yes.
Councilor Worthley,
Yes.
Councilor Gilman, yes. Councilor Gross.
Yes.
The yeses have it, 9 in favor, 0 opposed. And is there a motion?
So make a motion for reconsideration.
Okay, there's a motion to reconsider. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's made to reconsider, second by Councilor Memhard.
Before we vote, should we tell, does everyone know what that means? Can we explain to the people, just because we're going to be
So a
tricking them?
motion to reconsider is that
No is
that
good.
a no vote means that we don't want to reconsider. And the folks that vote affirmatively are the ones that are allowed to reconsider, not votes, but we all voted in favor. So, but it's just a protocol that
Speeds
we
things up.
do.
Speeds it up.
Speeds it up.
So, exactly. So, so motion to reconsider made and seconded. Councilor Grow,
No.
Councilor Majota,
No.
Councilor Memard,
No.
Councilor Nolan,
No.
Councilor O'Hara,
No.
Councilor O'Neill,
No.
Councilor Worthley,
No.
Councilor Gilman, no. Councilor Gross.
No.
A motion fails to reconsider, 0 in favor, 9 opposed. So thank you. Next order of business is the second motion to this.
Yeah, and come
Loan
and
order.
from Budget and Finance, this is Part B of tonight's work. And this is a shift of the debt service for seasonal water line replacement project. And the Budget and Finance Committee recommended on a motion by myself, seconded by Councilor Gross. We voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council accept pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, N, authorizing the city to hereafter assess taxes in excess of the amount otherwise allowed by Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C, solely for the payment in whole or in part of water debt incurred as a result of a project to replace municipal seasonal water lines in various areas of the city, provided that the annual user charges billed to the Water Enterprise Fund right? That the annual water, the annual user charges billed to in the Water Enterprise Fund shall be reduced by the amount of any such aggregate additional taxes assessed, and any additional taxes shall be assessed on all real property, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's made by Council Memard, seconded by Council Worthley. Is there a narrative, Council Memard?
Nothing further. This just authorizes what we previously discussed at some detail.
Okay, discussion, Council Grow?
I just think that when we're doing major projects like this that benefit the community as a whole, that the whole community ought to be pitching in to help pay for them. The attachment to this just strictly to water rates would be phenomenal and highly detrimental to businesses that are supported by water use and that. So I think that it's better that we spread this out over a wider net, and I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Council Majota?
I support this as well.
Council Memard?
Be in support of this.
Council Nolan?
I will definitely be in support of this.
Council O'Hara?
I will support this.
Council O'Neill?
Supporting it.
Council Worthley?
Yes.
Council Gilman, I will be supporting it. I also want to thank City Administration, Mike Hale, and all the hard work that you've done. John Dunn, Kenny, Jill, Suzanne, to help us get through this. And also thank you to this council and everybody that's here to be an active part of the process. Really appreciated. Council Gross.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do need to do a roll call vote because I didn't call the roll on this, okay? So this is a form of roll call. We have a motion seconded. Council Grow.
Yes.
Council Majota.
Yes.
Council Memard.
Yes.
Council Nolan.
Yes.
Council O'Hara.
Yes.
Council O'Neill.
Yes.
Council Worthley.
Yes.
Council
thank you.
Gilman, yes. Council Gross.
Yes.
Yeses have it. 9 in favor, 0 opposed. Is there a motion to reconsider?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Grow, seconded by Councilor Memard. We know how to do this. Let me explain that.
let's go.
So motion to reconsider, Councilor Grow,
Nope.
Council Majota,
No.
Council Memard,
Nope.
Council Nolan,
Nope.
Council O'Hara,
No.
Council O'Neill,
No.
Council Worthley,
No.
Council Gilman, no, Council Gross.
No.
Motion fails, 0 in favor and 9 opposed.
Madam Chair, I move for a 5-minute recess. I move for a 5-minute recess.
Want to recess? Want to recess?
We got nothing left.
Do we want a 2-minute recess and then we'll continue? Is there a motion for a recess? Second,
Second.
roll call vote
Yes.
on a recess.
Yes.
Council Grow?
Yes.
Council Majota?
Yes.
Council Memard?
Yes.
Council Nolan?
Yes.
Council O'Hara?
Yes.
Council O'Neill?
Yes.
Council Worthley?
Yes.
Council Gilman, yes. Council Gross?
Yes.
Brief recess, councilors. Went better than I thought. Okay, we are back. And we've just come back from recess. This is our November 14th, 2023 City Council meeting. And we're almost done with our meeting. So I would ask our city clerk, Joanne Sinos, to call the next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business for council vote, the decision to adopt special city council permit 2023-007 Easton Avenue number 210, map 264, lot 23. Gloucester zoning ordinance section 1.8.6, lapsed of special permit to request finding of a good cause that special city council permit 2015-002 granted pursuant to Gloucester zoning ordinance section 2.3.4 parentheses 6. business uses in section 2.3.4, parentheses 7, animal boarding kennel, 24 hours operation. Has not lapsed.
Is there a motion to adopt the
So moved.
decision?
Second.
Okay, I think it was Council Grow, and I think it was Council Gross that seconded it, I think. So, so we have a motion and second. So there's a roll call vote. I don't know if we need to discuss it. Do we need to discuss this, anybody? No, okay. So we're gonna do the roll call vote. Council Grow?
Yes.
Council Majota?
Yes.
Council Memard?
Yes.
Council Nolan?
Yes.
Council O'Hara?
Don't see him on.
Absent. Council O'Neill?
Yes.
Council Worthley?
Yes.
Council Gilman? Yes. Council Gross?
Yes.
The yeses have it. 8 in favor, 1 absent.
Motion to reconsider?
Okay, we can do that. Motion
Second.
by Council O'Neill, seconded by Council Gross. Roll call vote, Council Grow?
No.
Council Majota?
No.
Council Memard?
No.
Council Nolan?
No.
Council O'Hara is absent. Council O'Neill?
No.
Council Worthley?
No.
Council Gilman, no. Council Gross?
No.
Motion fails. 8-0 in favor, 8-0 in 1 absent. So the motion fails. Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Is the individual councilors discussion, including reports by appointed councilors to the committee. It's the city council statement regarding the Gloucester 400 celebration by Councilor Grow.
Council Grow,
Yes, ma'am.
you have the honor.
The only thing I would say as a member of appointed councilors to committees is to let high school students of all ilk know that there are 2 available slots on the Human Rights Commission for ex officio student participation. So if that is of interest to you and you're a high school student in the city of Gloucester, whether you go to Gloucester High School, you're homeschooled, you go to the tech, your school choice, you go to private school, it doesn't matter. Please reach out to the mayor's office and find out how to get involved, because we made those spots for you because we believe that your input is important, especially on the issue of human rights. And with that, I'll read the proclamation. 2023 marks 400 years since the English Dorchester Company landed on our shores. Gloucester sits on the ancestral homeland of the Pawtucket people and their neighbors, the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, Pennacook, and Wampanoag tribes. Please enjoy the year-long and multiple events throughout 2023, most of which will be free or low cost. Visit gloucesterma400.org for a list of upcoming events. Like and share the Gloucester 400 Facebook page, and to receive major event notifications by email, send a request to info@gloucesterma400.org.
Thank you, Counselor. Final order of business, Madam Clerk.
Councilor's request to the mayor.
We will start with roll call. So Council Grow.
I don't have anything for the mayor, but I will just remind people, obviously, Thanksgiving and the various holidays are coming up. Most of us are lucky to have friends, family, and most importantly, food. There are a lot of people in town who do not have that same luxury. So please reach out to the open door, reach out to your places of worship, whatever works for you. But there are food drives, there are baskets to fill with money. However you can help out people in need this time of year is most graciously welcome. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Councilor Majota.
I'll keep this quick. Council Grow did take my thing for the donate, but it's okay. Just if we can look into Washington Street in front of George's, I think that is very important where, the parking spots, and if it's possible with the council, if the no parking is correct in a sense of taking 3 parking spots, I'd love to do an emergency meeting if possible to fix this as soon as possible and not go necessarily through O&A and all the meetings so we can fix the parking spots in front of George's. And also the clock at City Hall reads 10:30, but it's only 9:30, so we can get that fixed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Next is Counselor Memard.
I would just like to follow up with my ongoing request through the mayor's office for electronic speed signage on Mount Pleasant Avenue and increased police enforcement of speeders on the beautiful black chocolate roadway of Mount Pleasant Avenue. And I'd like also to follow up on my partner in crime, Marianne Boucher, asking for a update on the Good Harbor Beach pollution issue and more clarity about how that's been resolved, if at all, and what we can look forward to in the future. Thank you.
Counselor Nolan.
I have no request for the mayor. I want to thank the councilors for working on this public hearing tonight. You all did an outstanding job listening to the people and making a good, hard decision that's going to affect a lot of lives and help out the safety of a lot of people. And other than that, I just want to remind people that Magnolia Library does have their Christmas tree lighting on December 10th at 5 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Nolan. Counselor Hara, I believe, is not here. Counselor O'Neill.
I have no requests at this time.
Counselor Worthley.
Yes, firstly, congratulations to everybody who won, and the ones who didn't, thank you for your service. But I want to commend the city clerk's office for a very good, what's the word? Good job.
Thank you.
Job well done. Sorry, job well done. Wow, I messed up. Flawlessly done. I don't hear one, but there was the issue with the parking at the high school, which wasn't your responsibility, but I still think you did an excellent job. I had a couple notes here. The Veterans Office is working through the Cape Ann Food Pantry on Thanksgiving morning. Mark Nestor has organized volunteers. I think we're starting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're looking for people to serve and to drive to bring food to shut-ins. The issue with in front of George's, I don't know that would even require an emergency council meeting. It seems like an administrative function to say what did we vote on and where did they put the sign? And so I did send an email to Mike Hale. He said he's gonna look at it tomorrow. CC'd you on it, so you're in the loop on it as the ward councilor. But I wouldn't think it'd be an emergency meeting. I think it would be a mayor's office saying to the DPW director, let's cut the sign and put it back. But
Okay, I
but
just
it's an
wanted to-
important issue. I think
Yes, that's
that
all.
the whole point is we committed to one spot being moved. And I think we all understood that by that measurement. So, but I appreciate that you want to get back to them and fix that. I had one other thing. Oh, we were invited to an event at the Magnolia Library it's by Kirsten Myers. Did everybody get that invitation? Okay, that's, I think, December 2nd. It's a Saturday. It's for Brazilian women business owners appreciation. I think we all got that. I just want to remind everybody of that. Anyway, happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and good meeting tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Memard just waved. at
Yeah,
me.
I'm sorry. I had one other item that I meant to bring forward, and I believe it's this Thursday evening that the Sawyer Free Library is holding its annual meeting, and it will be held at Gloucester Stage, and they're celebrating their groundbreaking and all the important stuff that we are helping them support and accomplish to rebuild our library. That's this Thursday evening. And we also do have a special meeting for cash classification purposes coming up.
At 6 o'clock
Yeah.
here at Kairos. What? No, 6? It's right on the agenda. Tony Gross.
I'm all set. See you
So-
guys in next month sometime.
So I am
Great. Yeah.
last. So I just wanted to thank everybody for really doing a very thorough job tonight. I think it was long, but we were attentive. I thought we worked well. We've done a lot of good listening, and it's appreciated, I think, by the public. So I just wanted to comment on that. I also want to just mention that I am waiting patiently for some more of those electronic speed signs. And I just want to see if there's any way that we can get them on a fast track, because I think right now we're waiting for the distribution of free cash, and the only one we have is now broken. So for those of us who need to be getting one of those out on a street, like I'm trying to do Walnut Street from 30 to 20, and I had requested a speed study in March, and I've been patient, but now the one that we have isn't working. So if we might want to think about a way that we could ask for in advance of the monies, I'll work with Scott on that. But I just think that continuing to wait for something that's as important as a city that has so many miles of space that we need to monitor speed and then use it as a tool. I mean, even the Traffic Commission doesn't have a study anymore, so we're waiting for ours. So I just wanted to mention that. And also thank I think Jeff already mentioned it, but the clerk's office was awesome. So anyway, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, and we have to do a roll call.
Jamie's not on, is he?
Jamie's not on, so we don't, okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right, good night.
Everybody. Thank you.
Okay.